Hello and welcome to The Point, your weekly look at biggest story making headlines and deep dive into issues that matter the most. I'm Brian Phams and here what we're looking at today. Vietnam is making a big push to attract top-tier talent from around the world to empower semiconductor industry. The goals by 2027 to have the capability to design, produce and test key semiconductor chips right here at home. But first, let's take a look at some of Wiki's headlines. Last week, State President Lương Cường, his spouse, and a high-level Vietnamese delegations have successfully concluded a state visit to the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Republic of Angola.
This marks the first state visit by a senior Vietnamese leader to Egypt in 7 years. The state visit by President Long Quang marked a new milestone in bilateral ties. Vietnam and Egypt officially elevated their ties to a comprehensive partnership, marking Vietnam's first such partnership with an African nation.
Quan hệ đối tác toàn diện phản ánh tầm vóc mối quan hệ hai nước trong kỷ nguyên mới với sự tin cậy chính trị cao hơn ở tất cả các cấp độ.
Egypt is ready to act as a bridge for Vietnamese businesses and goods to access the Middle East and Africa.
After Egypt, the state visit to Angola by President Long Quang took place at a time when two countries celebrated the 50th anniversary of their diplomatic relations. During this visit, State President Long Quang witnessed the signing of many cooperation documents on economy, trade, investment, national defense and security, justice, television, agriculture, etc., and delivered a policy speech at the special plenary session of the National Assembly of Angola.
Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính, head of the National Steering Committee on Semiconductor Industry Development, chaired the committee's second meeting in Hanoi on August 4th to assess progress made in its first sessions and discuss ways to further advance the sector. He emphasized the goal to design, manufacture, and test several semiconductor chips by 2027. The Prime Minister also outlined 8 key tasks focusing on technology transfer, workforce training, and infrastructure development. Relevant agencies must also refine incentive policy, shifting from investment attractions to technology transfer.
Cả nước phải là một đoàn quân, hành quân là phải thần tốc và táo bạo, đánh trận là phải mạnh, phải nhanh và phải thắng lợi, rồi hiệu quả thì phải bền vững lâu dài.
According to the Financial Times, 2 U.S. semiconductor companies, NVIDIA and AMD, have agreed to pay the U.S. government 15% of revenue from sales of artificial intelligence chips to China. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang have been said to have met U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House and agreed to share a portion of the company's sales revenue. Meanwhile, AMD will also pay 15% of revenue from sales of its MI308 chips to China, which were previously banned from export. According to New York Times, the deal could bring the U.S. government more than $2 billion. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said the United States was working to schedule talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and U.S. President Donald Trump in the Fox News interview recorded on Friday.
But fundamentally, this is something where the president needs to force President Putin and President Zelensky really to sit down to figure out their differences.
Meanwhile, U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker said there's still time to decide whether Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky can attend the U.S.-Russia summit this week in Alaska. Cambodia and Thailand have agreed to allow ASEAN observers to monitor dispute border area in an effort to maintain a ceasefire. The agreement was reached during a meeting on August 7 in Kuala Lumpur between Cambodian Defense Minister T. Seha and Thailand Acting Defense Minister Nathapon Nakfanit, aimed at resolving a decade-long territorial dispute. This move follows deadly clashes in late July that killed 43 people and displaces over 300,000. It's clear that the past week has been a vibrant one, with a host of domestic and international events, among them Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính directive setting the goal that by 2027, Vietnam must be able to design, manufacture, and test a range of essential semiconductor chips once again underscore the country's ongoing efforts to drive the growth of the semiconductor industry. In the sweeping tides of the 4.0 industrial revolution, semiconductors have emerged as the backbone of future technologies, from artificial intelligence to smart manufacturing. Vietnam is no bystander in this race. The country now counts nearly 170 foreign investor projects in the semiconductors and high technology, with registered capital approaching $11.6 billion, leading the list Thai Intel with $4.1 billion, Amcor with $1.6 billion, and Hana Micron with $673 million. Vietnam has more than 50 companies operating in the value chain, from design, packaging, testing to equipment manufacturing. But here lies the biggest bottleneck: human resources. At present, the country has only around 5,000 microchips engineers, yet forecasts say that in just 5 years, the demand will soar to 20,000, and in a decade to 50,000 university-trained specialists or higher. To stay competitive in the global race for talent, Vietnam has rolled out an unprecedented move: full personal income tax exemption for high-tech experts, coupled with incentive for companies that employ them. The message is clear: Vietnam is not just opening the door for capital, but also rolling out the welcome mat for world-class talent. But what the challenge remains, and how will this policy be implemented? What exactly defines high-quality human resources? And is Vietnam truly ready in terms of legal framework, education, and infrastructure to turn this vision into reality?
Having operated for many years in Vietnam's digital transformation and automation market, SGH Asia is currently implementing a software solution to configure and customize 21 Odoo applications for nearly 100 users of a multinational corporation in Germany. The project is expected to expand to more than 25 applications for about 200 users in its second phase. To meet the demanding requirements of such high-tech projects, the company needs to recruit top-tier developers. However, offering salaries attractive enough to secure such talent remains a significant challenge.
High tax rate just makes it harder for us to offer competitive salaries. And that also affects, Vietnamese professionals returning to Vietnam, hiring expatriates and things of that nature. When we look at talent and individuals we want to hire, we want to make sure that they're aware that there's a proper progressive tax package that we can provide to really support them in their employment, and also support our company in terms of growth and innovation.
As Vietnam increasingly attracts investors, experts, and highly skilled workers in emerging sectors such as semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and digital transformation, there is a pressing need for more flexible policies and shorter work permit processing times to meet business and production demands.
We look for easy administration in every aspect of the business, and especially hiring foreigners is not really easy in Vietnam because the regulatory framework is kind of complicated. Part of it is the work permit regulations, the immigration, taxation is also part of it. So every single moment or every single good step we have towards an easier administration is more than welcome.
To enhance domestic technological capabilities and attract high-quality human resources, at the second meeting of the National Steering Committee on Semiconductor Industry Development, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh pointed out limitations that need to be addressed, especially in improving the legal framework, mobilizing resources, and facilitating technology transfer.
Thứ nhất là đi từ thấp đến cao, đi từ nhỏ đến lớn, đi từ đơn giản đến phức tạp. Nhưng mà phải tăng tốc bứt phá, phải đột phá. Tinh thần là phải bắt kịp, tiến cùng và vượt lên trong cái phát triển cái ngành chip bán dẫn của chúng ta.
In this context, the newly passed law on digital technology industry introduces one of its most notable highlights: personal income tax exemptions for high-quality digital and high-tech experts, a policy unprecedented in the region. This policy is expected to create a powerful boost to attract and retain global talent, while closely aligning with the strategy for developing high-tech spearhead industries, including semiconductors, AI, and smart manufacturing.
So how will its new policy shape Vietnam investment climate and its ability to attract top-tier human resources? Right now, let's speak with Leif Snyder, head of Luther Law Firm in Vietnam, for a deeper perspective. Hello, Mr. Snyder. Thank you for joining us. And Vietnam is moving to exempt personal income tax for high-quality digitals and high-tech professionals. How do you assess the significance of this unprecedented tax policies in the region?
Well, I believe that it comes at a good time in Vietnam's push to move from a mid to low quality manufacturing destination up the value chain towards high tech and new technologies. I believe this is a big fragment of what Vietnam needs to do, and it falls in line with other major government policies that are being pushed through over the last 6 to 12 months. I believe that this is something that will catch a lot of attention from investors' side, and of course then needs to be followed up with implementing guidance so these ideas and these framework policies actually see the light of day.
The law mentions criteria like leading level experts and high quality human resources. Do you think there should be regulation to define or certify these groups?
Yes, indeed. I mean, I would look at the new laws that are now coming to light and being ruled into law as the framework that obviously needs to be followed up with a lot of details, and then, of course, the practical interpretation and implementation by the respective authorities. We all like to believe that we are high quality and highly qualified experts in our field, but who certifies that? Is this a self-assessment? And is that self-assessment then realistic or sufficient in order to benefit from the consequences like tax breaks and other incentives? So currently, it's very difficult to say who will fall within the scope, who qualifies as human resources that get priority. What does high tech mean? What is innovation in that sense of the law? And what is high quality human resources? So I believe, and this is part of my job as a legal advisor, a tax advisor here in Vietnam, our firm grapples a lot with these ambiguous terms and with the lack of clarity in these terms.
Some experts raise concern that these incentives may only benefit large or well-connected.
Here's our today's headlines. Vietnam becomes world's second largest rice exporter. US raises tariffs on over 400 aluminium and steel products. Hello and welcome to Daily Biz on Vietnam Today. You're with Vũ Anh. I'm here to bring you key business and economic highlights of the day. Let's take a look at the figures today. US stock finish mixed on Tuesday as witnessed in tech-weighted markets. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 10.45 points to 41,922.27. The S&P 500 decreased by 6.4%. while Nasdaq Composite ended at 21,314. In Europe, the Euro Stock 50 index was up 0.3% in the morning trade. Later, we'll have analysis on the figure in the European market. Now let's go deeper with the US stock. 7 of the 11 primary S&P 500 sectors closed higher. Real estate led the gains with a 1.8% rise, followed by consumer staples. Technology and communication services were the biggest laggards. Mega cap tech stocks extended declines, dragging on the broader market. Nvidia and Broadcom each fell around 3.5%. Meta Platforms slipped 2%, and Microsoft, Amazon, and Tesla lost 1.5% apiece. Apple and Alphabet posted small losses. Looking ahead, investors are awaiting remarks from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium later this week for clues on monetary policies. According to CME's FedWatch tool, markets are pricing at an 83% probability of a quarter-point rate cut at the Fed September meeting. In Frankfurt, European shares rose slightly today as investors wait the possibility of a Russian-Ukraine peace deal following a US-European meeting in Washington.
The Pan-European Stoxx 600 index was up 0.3% in the morning trade, while the FTSE tumbled between 3.5% and 6.4%. Analysts say the markets are reacting cautiously to the new diplomatic signals from the US and Europe.
The stock market is hardly moving. On the one hand, everyone is hoping for progress in the peace process in Ukraine. But on the other hand, we know that a real ceasefire is still a long way off. The positive aspect is that Europe is now more deeply involved and showing its geopolitical weight.
According to Mr. Halver, Europe will have to bear significant costs to support Ukraine, but this could also bring opportunities.
US has pledged to guarantee Ukraine's security, but Europe is the one footing the entire bill. That doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. If it helps strengthen EU solidarity, then it's money well spent.
Beyond the financial burden, the experts said Germany could benefit from participating in Ukraine's reconstruction.
If Europe spends money on weapons and aid, then in return, German companies could take the lead in rebuilding Ukraine. That will provide a vital boost to the economy, which is otherwise facing the risk of a prolonged recession.
While peace prospects remain uncertain, European markets are also awaiting fresh signals from the US Federal Reserve's Jackson Hole Symposium later this week.
Consistently breaking through resistance levels, the VN Index marks its strongest growth in the past 3 years. At the closing of the morning session on July 22nd, the VN Index hit the 1,491.12 points. The underlying causes go beyond surface factors, driven by key forces propelling the VN Index forward. To help us understand more about this growth momentum, we have us here today with us Dr. Trần Thăng Long, Director of Research Center at BIDV Securities. It's a great pleasure to have you here with us today. So let's get straight into our first question. So what do you think are the causes as well as the key drivers behind the recent growth of the VN Index?
Over the last 3 months, everyone sees that VN Index is growing really high. We're now approaching our all-time high of 1,500, and this is the highest point we have since 2022. And we see that there are several reasons behind that. The first of all is our macroeconomy situation is quite stable, and Vietnamese government are now targeting a very high growth in terms of GDP, around like 8%. And because of that, the Vietnamese government are now supporting in terms of policy. The second one is the growing in terms of liquidity in the market. And especially in July, we see that there are several sections that the liquidity is getting over $1 billion to $1.2 billion, even higher than several emerging markets in Southeast Asia. And the last but not least, the growth of the market are now backed up by the growing in terms of profit. The number we have from the profit of the first quarter of 2025 of the overall VN Index is growing around like 12%, which is even quite high compared to several years.
Thank you. And how would you assess the quality of this growth?
So over the last 3 months, after the reciprocal tariff from the US, all markets is growing, and our markets, VN Index, is growing pretty fast compared to other markets, especially in Southeast Asia. And we find out that around 1/3 of the growing point is from the banking stock. The other 1/3 is from like large cap, like Vingroup stock or Galaxy Group. And the last one, the 1/3, is from other sector, big stock, like big cap, especially from the technologies and industry and also logistic firm.
And in the context of regional and global markets, is Vietnam benefiting from the overall trend, or are there any disadvantages setting it apart?
Vietnamese market is surely benefit from the recovery trends. Not only VN Index are growing, we also find that market, especially in Asia, the biggest stock market in the world is the US market. We have S&P 500, also the Nasdaq are growing. So Vietnam is not a standalone market. We are growing in same trends with market in Asia, also with most of the stock market over the last few months. And also our market also stand out compared to other when we come into the recent growing in our macroeconomies, because we are among the very few countries that targeting very high GDP growth, especially when the Vietnamese government are not just target a very high GDP growth this year, but target a very high GDP growth for the next 10 to 12 years.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Dr. Long. By mid-July, the VN Index had risen more than 6%, fueled by significant progress in Vietnam's negotiation on reciprocal taxation and its increasingly pivotal role in global supply chains. These developments are setting the stage for a positive market trajectory in the latter half of the year, opening up a wide array of potential investment opportunities. To fully capture the potentiality of this momentum, Vietnam must take crucial steps to refine the institutional framework, improve transparency, and most importantly, continue to enhance investor education. These are key to making Vietnam's stock market beneficial for all participants and attracting foreign investors. The Ministry of Finance draft of the amended law on investment proposes simplify investment approval procedures and enhance decentralization. These procedures apply only to projects significantly impacting the environment, national defense, security, national resources, and seaports and airport sectors. The policy aims to resolve current obstacles and accelerate investment. Additionally, narrowing the scope of projects requiring approval unlocks resources for economic development. These reforms are expected to drive Vietnam's sustainable economic and social growth. From August 19th, a government decree on land use fees and land rents is in force. The decree grants a 30% reduction in land rents for 2025 and those paying annually. The policy applies even to land users without full legal documents as long as they are subject to land rent payments in 2025. Even those yet to complete legal procedures on land use are still eligible for the reduction. The decree also stipulates other causes eligible for exemptions and reductions, including allocation of resettlement land or residential land to households and individuals in flood-prone resettlement areas in the Mekong Delta, allocation of residential land to fishing households and communities living on rivers, lagoons, and waterways who relocate to planned resettlement areas. Vietnam has overtaken Thailand to become the world's second-largest rice exporter in the first half of this year, according to the Thai Rice Exporter Association. This reflects a significant shift in Vietnam's rice sector, from exporting large volume to focusing on higher value shipments. In response, the Prime Minister directed the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development with relevant agencies to develop specific plans to maintain this position. He urged authorities to accelerate rice exports, particularly high-quality and organic rice, while strengthening traceability systems and building a national rice brand to enhance export value. The Prime Minister also called for faster implementation of the project to develop 1 million hectares of high-quality, low-emission rice in the Mekong Delta by 2030, in line with green growth goals. Vietnam's coastal provinces have launched a High Point campaign through August 2025 in a bid to have the European Commission revoke its yellow card on illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, IUU, fishing prevention and control. 21 coastal localities are coordinating with the Ministries of National Defense, the Ministry of Public Security, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment to inspect and strictly manage violating fishing vessels and fishing crews. Youth groups and local authorities actively promote IUU law awareness. Additionally, local leaders face accountability for violations. These efforts are expected to meet international standards and promote sustainable fishing in Vietnam. Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, organized the Green Hydrogen Summit 2025 in New Delhi as part of India's push towards clean energy. Held under the theme Aligning Policy, Demand and Technology, the Green Hydrogen Summit brought together key stakeholders from government agencies, industries, academia, and the international community. The focus was on actionable pathways to scale India's green hydrogen economy and align national efforts towards sustainability goals, highlighting India's evolving green hydrogen landscape. Union Minister of State for Power and New and Renewable Energy, Shripad Yesso Nak, said green hydrogen stands out as a promising and transformative solution. And you've been watching Daily Biz with me, Vũ Anh. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you again in our next edition on Vietnam Today.
Net Zero 2050, together with Vietnam Today.
Green
ciao, everybody. I'm Trey Reeves from Houston, Texas. I'm currently working and living in Vietnam, and I love Vietnamese food.
Breakfast is often called the most important meal of the day, giving energy for work and study. In Vietnam, many people enjoy eating out in the morning, not just to fill up, but as a way to meet and connect. In Hanoi, choices range from hot bowls of pho or rich bún riêu to crispy bánh mì. Street food stalls and casual eateries are the best places to find them. Among them, sticky rice or xôi is always a familiar favorite for these reasons.
Sáng ăn nó rất tiện và là nhanh.
Rẻ, ngon, tiện và chất lượng.
No đến trưa.
Sticky rice in Vietnam comes in many varieties, each with its own taste and careful preparation. The best cooks chose quality glutinous rice, soak it overnight and then steam it to keep the grain soft and fragrant. In Hanoi, xôi xào is a signature dish known for its golden color and rich flavor. It's made with sticky rice, steamed mung beans, fried shallots, and served with scallion oil or pork floss. Its name comes from the way the mung beans are prepared. They are sliced thinly and gently sealed or laid across the rice, creating a look and taste that truly distinctive.
Nhà tôi bán ở đây từ năm 93, là được 32 năm. Nhà tôi ở làng Phương Mai là làng xôi. Từ thời ông bà nhà tôi đã bán rồi và cứ thế là các thế hệ đi sau sẽ bán theo. Sáng mình phải dậy sớm từ 2-3 giờ này, xong rồi lên đây bán hàng xong thì mình lại về mình chuẩn bị hàng chiều để chuẩn bị trưa này, mình ngâm gạo này, ngâm gạo đủ thời gian, đến khi đủ thời gian thì mình sẽ cho ra trộn muối và sau đó mình sẽ đổ xôi. Dù vất vả như nào nhưng mà tôi vẫn cảm thấy vui bởi vì là đó là công việc mà mẹ tôi đã để lại cho tôi và tôi là người tiếp theo. Và nó cũng sẽ là cái nguồn thu nhập chính của gia đình nhà tôi. Mình thấy mọi người vẫn còn đến với mình này, vẫn còn cho mình những cái phản hồi rất là tốt. Đấy là niềm vui và niềm động lực với tôi mỗi ngày để mỗi ngày làm nghề. Hàng ngày mình cảm giác mình được lao động, mình được kiếm ra tiền, đấy là hạnh phúc. Tất cả mọi thứ nhà tôi làm đều là làm thủ công, với là tự mình làm, từ hành phi, mỡ, như cái đậu ấy thì có nơi thì người ta sẽ để rời rạc ra. Thế nhưng mà ở quán tôi bán thì lại nắm đậu vào để mình thái ra, thì tôi nghĩ là mỗi cái đấy sẽ là một cái đặc điểm riêng. Ngày trước thì mình cũng chỉ bán những cái xôi chỉ có đậu hành mỡ thôi. Thì bắt đầu dần dần về sau thì thấy khách hàng sẽ yêu thích hơn như ruốc, trứng chả thịt.
Chị ơi, buổi sáng người ta hay mua xôi gì ạ?
Em ở đây em bán được nhiều nhất là xôi xéo anh ạ.
Xôi xéo ạ?
Dạ vâng.
Mời chọn em một bát ạ.
Dạ vâng ạ. Em mời ạ.
Dạ, em xin ạ. Smell of breakfast in Hanoi. Crispy shallots. Now it's time to dig in. Bon appetit. You get that crispiness from the shallots, the softness from the soy, and the meat floss getting in there for that savory richness. And then my favorite specialty is the top mỡ, which is fried pork belly. All of it together blends perfectly. And as for xôi xéo, I'm always blown away at the price. For just 15 to 20,000 Vietnam đồng, you can get a tasty yet filling breakfast. What I'm most impressed about was the lady who ran the stall. She wasn't just knocking those orders out with superhuman speed, but accurate, with precision as well. With all those people surrounding her, I was so surprised she was able to pull it off. Watching her was like a burst of morning energy that I needed to start my day. Ôi ôi chị ơi, no lắm rồi ạ.
Em cảm ơn ạ.
Chị ơi, em thấy chị thái đồ là siêu nhanh. Như tốc độ, ánh sáng. Thì chị có được dạy em cách thái một chút được không ạ?
Dạ được ạ.
Dạ.
Đây này. Đây anh thái đi. Đây, không. Cầm như này, đây. Mình sẽ cầm như này nhá, đây nhá. Cầm này, thái xuống đây này.
À, ok, em sẽ cố gắng nhá. Ôi, nhiều quá.
Rồi đi.
Ui, cái đoạn này hơi khó ạ. Em không biết vì sao là chị làm kiểu là siêu nhân luôn ạ.
Tự nhiên anh sẽ không để như em được, em quen rồi mà.
Dạ vâng. Chị có dạy em một đoạn là dễ hơn được không ạ?
Nếu mà dễ hơn thì chắc là ví dụ như là cho hành, cho ruốc hay là gói xôi thì nó sẽ dễ hơn làm cái việc mình thái đậu.
Thì cho em gói nhá.
Vâng. Đây nha, mình cho mỡ này. Xong rồi mình cho đậu này lên này. Nếu đúng nhất là đúng ở trong cái việc này thái đậu sẽ là việc mọi người khó làm nhất. Đây, ruốc đây. Đây mình gói đi.
Dạ.
Đây.
Một,
đây.
1, 2, 3.
Rồi.
4 này. Rồi.
Rồi ạ.
Hello.
Vâng.
Dạ vâng. Đây ạ.
Sticky rice is dry and handy for busy mornings. But if you want a warm, soupy dish and have more time, Hanoi offers plenty from beef or chicken phở to bún riêu. Today, we'll explore one of the city's most refined breakfasts, perfect in both taste and preparation, bún thang.
Tôi sinh ra và lớn lên ở Hà Nội. Từ bé tôi có được mẹ tôi nấu cho ăn. Thế tôi là đâm ra là từ ngày đến lúc nó nhỏ là coi như thèm ăn lắm. Đâm ra là lúc nào nó cũng theo đuổi tôi. Cho đến lúc tôi lớn, tôi trưởng thành nên là tôi muốn là có một cái cửa hàng bán bún thang này. Tôi năm nay tôi 64 tuổi. Bắt đầu bán hàng bún thang này từ năm 1989. Là bắt đầu tôi mở ra tôi bán, là tôi còn ngồi vỉa hè, mà lúc ấy đó vất vả lắm, mà lúc ấy các em nó còn bé, đâm ra chẳng ai đỡ đần được, nên là cứ một mình. Cái món này thì đúng ra là ngày xưa chỉ có vua chúa người ta mới được ăn, còn mình thì không được ăn vì nhà nghèo làm gì ra có để mà ăn. Thế đến Tết mới được một món. Cái này nó như là món gốc Bắc ấy, nó nhiều món, mỗi vị, mỗi thứ nó bốc vào một tí, nó như là vị thuốc ấy, thì đâm ra là nó gọi là bún thang.
Chào các cô ạ.
Chào cháu.
Đây là món gì đây mà nhiều nguyên liệu hấp dẫn thế, đậm mà thế?
Cháu ơi, đây là món bún thang. Nó có cả trứng, giò, củ cải, nấm hương.
Cháu xin một bát.
Cháu ngồi vào đi, cô làm với cháu. Cháu ăn mắm tôm không?
Mắm tôm hả? Đây cháu ngửi đi. Uầy, thơm.
Cô cho vào một tí nhá, cho đậm đà nhá.
Ui.
Mời nhá.
Cảm ơn em nha.
Ngửi đi, xong bắt đầu em trộn đều lên.
Dạ.
Xong mới ăn thì nó mới ngon.
You got this juicy chicken, a lot of juice in there, and still got the skin on too. It gives you this very meaty, umami feeling combined with this mushroom and all the different herbs in there. It's so fresh. And especially that mam tom, the shrimp paste. It's just a little bit, but it takes that flavor up all the way up there. Makes it an amazing dish.
Cho đến bây giờ thì khách đến ăn thì cứ khen ngon. Tôi không thay đổi, truyền thống của tôi là vẫn như thế, là đúng của ngày xưa. Nước dùng của nó là điểm nhấn nhất, vì cái nước dùng nó rất khó. Nước dùng của nó là nhiều thứ. Tôm là một này, sáo sùng là hai này, rồi xương, rồi có những lúc phải cho cả tôm nõn. Có cái đầu tôm thì bắt đầu nó mới ra được cái vị này, nó mới ngon được như thế, nó mới thanh.
Ngon, down to the last drop. The bowl of boontang I just had was vibrant and beautifully put together, like a work of art. Every single ingredient finely crafted and placed with tender love and care. And not only does this dish look fancy, the entire creation and making and cooking process behind it is intricate as well. I finally understand why boontang is considered one of Hanoi's signature dishes.
Con thích ăn bún thang bởi vì ở trong đấy có rất là nhiều món con thích ăn như là thịt gà, giò và trứng ạ. Và đặc biệt là nước dùng rất là ngọt và đậm đà.
Tôi từ bé đã được bố mẹ cho ăn món ăn truyền thống dân tộc và cái món ăn đã đi theo cái sự lớn lên của tôi và có tình mình ăn mình phải cảm giác nó vị thanh vị ngọt và có những món ăn mà mình của các cụ ngày xưa có cả rau xanh có cả thịt vừa đảm bảo chất mà ăn uống rất là nhẹ nhàng.
Bustling eateries to humble street vendors. These dishes, boontang and soy seao, each have their own charms. Quick, convenient, and deeply rooted in traditional flavor. If you found either one of these appealing, don't forget to add them to your Hanoi checklist. You won't regret it.
Vietnam Today, where faith meets harmony.
Touching Vietnam.
one land, 54 ethnic groups, 54 colors. One heartbeat. Where stories are not just told, but lived, shaped by time, woven by hands, passed down through generations. Voices carried by the wind, dances through time. In every celebration, the echoes of our ancestors. Where tradition meets today, unity in diversity. "54 ethnic souls, beating as one. One Vietnam. Touching Vietnam, a cultural odyssey on Vietnam today."
Hello and welcome to Culture Mosaic, your weekly journey into the vibrant soul of Vietnam and beyond. This week, we begin in the misty highlands of the Northeast, where the Giao Thanh Y people are stitching tradition into tourism. Then in our On the Mic segment, meet the French-Vietnamese designer Thomas Bình Minh Vincent, crafting timeless furniture with Vietnamese heart, from lamps built to last to values rooted in repair and sustainability. He's lighting up the global design world. And finally, Connecting Cultures takes us into the world of An Chen, a classical guitar virtuoso with a mission. Through music, he bridges East and West, letting Vietnamese folk melodies sing on international stages. From textiles to timber, strings to soul, these stories form a rich cultural tapestry. Stay with us. This is Culture Mosaic. Giao Thanh Y people harness culture to boost tourism. Thomas Bình Minh Vincent bringing Vietnamese furniture designs to global spotlight. And guitar virtuoso brings the melodies of Vietnam to the world. Now let's begin with some local news. In the past week, 3 musical events dubbed the National Concerts have taken the internet by storm with spectacular performances and powerful display of patriotism. Tens of thousands of spectators gathered in V Concert, Radiant Vietnam, V Fest, Glorious Youth, and Tổ quốc trong tim, or Fatherland in Our Hearts, to immerse themselves in hours of Vietnam-themed music and dance. Other than musical performances by top artists of different generations, each show was an emotional experience filled with meaningful moments of unity and national pride. At the V Concert Radiant Vietnam, the presence of over 1,200 officers and cadets from the Ministry of Public Security and Ministry of National Defense added to the concert spirit. Another standout moment was the mass sing-along of Tiến Quân Ca, Vietnam's national anthem, at the Tổ quốc trong tim concert. Both verses of the song were sung while 68 soldiers from the 1st Army College, who had represented the Vietnam People's Army at the Victory Day parade in Moscow's Red Square, marched to the main stage. On August the 8th, the Vietnamese Ministry of Public Security and the Japan Association for Health, Safety and Security jointly organized the opening ceremony of the World Police Music Festival 2025 in Vietnam. The festival is one of the events held to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the August Revolution and the National Day, the 80th anniversary of the traditional day of the Vietnam People's Public Security Force, and the 20th anniversary of the National Day for National Security Protection. 8 music ensembles from 6 countries, comprising Russia, Japan, China, Laos, Cambodia, Saudi Arabia, and the host country Vietnam, participated. Each country presented a performance rich in cultural identity. The music and performances praised a love for homeland, tradition, prestige, and the role of law enforcement forces in each nation. To mark the 80th anniversary of the traditional day of Vietnam People's Public Security Force, and in the lead-up to the 80th anniversary of the August Revolution and Vietnam's National Day, singer Nguyễn Duyên Quỳnh has officially released the music video Nguyện Thề Vì Bình Yên, A Vow for Peace, written by composer Nguyễn Văn Trung. The song is a heartfelt tribute to the People's Public Security Force. The project received a dedicated support from various units within the force, allowing the song to go beyond its audio version and be brought to life in the very settings, training grounds, classrooms, martial arts arenas, shooting ranges, and drill formations, where young officers hone their skills to safeguard the peace of the people. For the artist, the song was an act of gratitude, and for the audience, it offers an authentic, heartfelt portrait of those who work tirelessly to protect the community's safety and stability. Stunning images of the former imperial capital of Huế are being featured on the global news network CNN. A 30-second video is airing across various CNN programs and digital platforms to showcase Hué's tourism brand to international audiences. This campaign spotlights green tourism, a global sustainability trend celebrating cultural heritage while preserving nature. It reinforces Hué's image as a heritage city and a green, attractive, world-class destination on the global tourism map. Amid the lush green slopes of Vietnam's northeast, the Giao Thanh Y ethnic group continues to preserve and cherish every aspect of their cultural heritage. With the vibrant red of their garments and the intricate hand-embroidered patterns, they have turned each stitch into a language of storytelling. Worn not only during festivals, but also in daily life, these costumes embodied history, customs, and traditions of the people. And through their skillful hands, they have discovered a unique way to develop tourism by drawing directly from their own identity.
At the foot of Mount Yên Tử, the Giao Thanh Y ethnic group lives each day devoted to preserving their cultural heritage. The Giao Thanh Y Cultural Exhibition House vividly recreates the daily life of the local ethnic people, from sacred rituals to household items passed down for generations. Among them, the traditional attire of the Giao Thanh Y stands out in vibrant colors. Each delicate stitch is more than mere decoration. It tells stories of the mountains, forests, and ancestors' history, lovingly preserved through generations. Along the winding paths leading into the villages, it is easy to catch sight of Giao women gracefully dressed in their traditional attire. The embroidered patterns follow no pre-drawn designs. They are passed down orally and preserved through memory.
Tôi thêu từ năm 15 tuổi, mẹ dạy tôi thêu cái này. Thêu phải có kỹ thuật thêu đi nó mới thêu được. Dân tộc mình là phải mặc như thế này thì ai cũng phải thêu, ai cũng phải dùng cái này.
Dominated by the color red, these motifs take the shape of birds, flowers, and seeds, symbolizing harmonious connection with nature. When a Giao Thanh Y girl comes of age to marry, she must, with her own hands, embroider a beautiful outfit and headscarf to grace the festivals, to wear on joyful outings, and most importantly, to cherish on her wedding day.
Cái này thì cũng phải đam mê mới được. Cảm ơn ông bà đã để lại những cái bộ trang phục truyền thống. Tôi hứa là sẽ giữ gìn và bảo tồn phát huy nó.
Recognizing this unique value, this restaurant incorporates the art of embroidery into its experiential activities, allowing diners to explore and purchase products handcrafted by local people.
Thông qua các cái sản phẩm du lịch trải nghiệm như là thêu thùa trang phục, qua đó đã tạo được những cái khám phá đáng kể trong cái chuỗi du lịch khi du khách về với lại du lịch Yên Tử.
As night falls, the flickering firelight brings to life the vibrant embroidered costumes in performances reenacting the traditional rituals of the Giao Thanh Y people.
Đây chính là nghi lễ trưởng thành. Bạn nam nào mà muốn lấy vợ hãy cùng lên trên sân khấu giao lưu múa ga.
Mình cảm thấy hồi hộp và đây cũng là lần đầu tiên mình được tham gia tiết mục truyền thống múa gà, biết thêm về văn hóa của người Giao Thanh Y. Và sau đêm tiết mục này em hy vọng là em sang năm em lấy được vợ.
It is a way to preserve and promote their cultural identity, while harnessing culture as a driver for tourism development and improving local livelihoods.
Công việc này nó đã giúp mình quản lý tài chính được này, giúp đỡ được cho gia đình nhiều hơn và mọi người sẽ được trải nghiệm cái bản sắc dân tộc Dao của mình gọi là một cách hoàn thiện hơn.
And if you have the chance to visit Yên Tử, don't forget to stop by, feel the threads in your hands and witness a living culture, one that is nurturing dreams of change in this land.
A lamp built to last for generations sounds unreal? Not anymore. French designer Thomas Bing Vincent has turned it into reality. From their all-in-one design studio and factory in Bình Dương, Thomas and his team Bang, a Vietnam-based furniture and lighting brand, craft sleek, minimal, 100% Vietnamese household goods that buyers can easily maintain and repair themselves. So buckle up, because in this week's On the Mic, Thomas shows us why the magic of design happens not behind a desk, and how his hands-on approach and Bang's true craftsmanship are winning over customers worldwide.
Hi, my name is Thomas.
Motion and stillness defines the Lop lamp, a sphere delicately suspended within layered acrylic, where light filters through evenly arranged spaces. More than a lamp, Lop transforms into a sleek shelf or a versatile placeholder, limited only by imagination. Equally striking is Qua. Its fluid form tilts and shifts, echoing the emotions of its beholder. These creations are part of Bang, the Vietnamese furniture brand led by French designer Thomas Bing Vincent. Inspired by everyday life in Vietnam, from motorbike mirrors to tools in local workshops, his designs balance transparency, practicality, and innovation. They turn the ordinary into timeless pieces that feel both grounded and visionary.
Hi Thomas, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Now I have to ask, how long has it been since you arrived in Vietnam? And what inspired you to start Bang?
So me, I arrived in Vietnam almost 9 years ago, and I've been working for the same in the same factory since then. And it's within this factory that we co-founded Bang. So me, I took care of I co-founded the creative part. Bang in Vietnamese, bang means made of or made by. So at the factory when we work we have to discuss how we make a product, we're gonna speak a lot like, okay, bang sat, bang go, bang nua, and after like, how are we gonna process the material? And this is why we chose it, because it really represents us, and it also represents our environment.
And when speaking of bang, I'm sure that the first thing people usually think of is the love lamp. So to you, what do you think is the most distinctive and appealing features about the lamp to consumers?
For Lob, the inspiration is to make something float within something. And after I made this sketch, there was just like some lines and a circle in the middle. And here I quickly understood when I think about it in perspective in my head that if I make some holes in the middle of some sheets, I can hold a ball within it. And this was a very interesting answer to making something float into something.
And I can see that Vietnamese culture and craftsmanship seem to run through your designs. So could you share how these local elements appear in your final product?
The Vietnam culture is in the how we do things. Here, us, Bang is Vietnamese not into the product it delivers in the aesthetic, but it's Vietnamese in the how we do things with what we have around. It's the people, it's the makers, the designers, it's my colleagues. We are more interested to show what our Vietnam environment make us do, you know? When you show them Lob, Hoa, Dim collection, and you tell them it's from a Vietnamese brand, people are surprised. And it shows also the possibility of Vietnam.
When Thomas first arrived in Vietnam more than a decade ago, he came searching for his grandfather's roots. What he didn't expect was to discover a thriving creative landscape that would anchor him here. Vietnam's design scene became the perfect canvas for his ideas. Today, just 40 minutes from Ho Chi Minh City, a 5,000 square meter factory brings Thomas's ideas to life. Here, drawings evolve into Bang's signature products. His creations are now recognized not only by Vietnamese people, but also appreciated around the world.
It's been such an exciting journey. The Lob collection has been honored with awards from Arcade Products in Italy, the Chicago Athenaeum, and the German Design Awards.
Thomas, you and Bang have gained multiple international awards. So what do these recognitions mean to you and to Vietnamese-made designs, you think?
Representing, I think, a new Vietnam, maybe a recent Vietnam. And I'm very happy to do this in Vietnam. When I speak with a young designer here in Vietnam, I see that they are very excited to see what we can do with Bang, because they understand that they can actually also do it. So giving this motivation to a lot of young creative is also I'm very happy about that.
Now looking back, what do you think was the biggest challenge that you faced when creating and manufacturing products here?
How you maintain the quality. Maintaining the quality when you make products. After the great benefits of this is that it makes the product repairable. And when a product is repairable and people see with their own eyes that they can repair it themselves, then they are ready to maybe spend a little bit more. They know that it's something that they're going to keep for a long time. And that it will only depend on them. They don't have to call the brand or send back the product to us in Vietnam to fix it. We ship different repair kits with a lot of very simple instructions that you can keep it for life.
And Thomas, you've been here in Vietnam for almost a decade now. So how do all those years influence you as a designer?
Me personally, it has changed my working method, I think a little bit. It's more like I have more like a hands-on things method, because everything in Vietnam is accessible. You know, you can get to things. When in France, it's much harder to get your hands on things. It also awakes my curiosity more. The Vietnam environment that is not boring, you know. And with Bang, we make unboring objects, and we have an unboring environment. And for me, it's a good influence.
And looking ahead, how do you envision your journey with Bang would contribute to promoting the presence of Vietnamese designs?
So in 50 years, my grandkids, they will have the lamp I'm having today at my house. Bang being a design reference in Vietnam for young designers, but also worldwide. It's of course it's a big aim, a big challenge, but I believe we can make it.
Well, that is all for our interview today. Thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing your inspiring story with us. And I look forward to what you and Bang has to offer in the future.
On this week's Connecting Cultures, we explore the journey of Anh Chen, a Vietnamese-American classical guitarist whose music is a bridge between cultures. With numerous international accolades to his name, Anh's talent has garnered global recognition. Beyond the awards, Anh's true mission is to bring the beauty of Vietnamese culture to the world. From performing on renowned stages to mentoring the next generation of musicians, he continues to honor the timeless folk tunes of Vietnam. Join us this week as we discover how Anh Chen's music weaves together cultures and brings the heart of Vietnam to the world.
Named one of the Chicago Tribune's Recording of the Year, Anh Chen's debut album Stay My Beloved, with 7 tracks draw from the folk music of regions across Vietnam. From the northern ballads of Drifting Dogwoods, Floating Clouds, to the romantic bucking folk song Stay My Beloved, the album pays homage to Vietnam's most iconic tunes.
My first ever musical memory, I think I was a baby or like a few years old or something. And either my mom or my dad was carrying me, because I remember vividly the ceiling fan. He was singing this melody, Stay My Beloved. So that's why it's so personal to me, and that's why it has to be the title of my album. And I think, yeah, people feel that, you know, there's a personal connection to that. Yeah. I just feeling the most comfortable playing Vietnamese music, carry our music to a different audience and expose them to our melodies.
Behind the success of his debut album and his second album, released in 2023 by Naxos, lies a lifelong journey of passion and self-discovery. Crowned young Vietnamese guitar talent at the age of 12 and moving to the United States to study music at just 15, Anh's path might seem like it was paved with roses, yet it was anything but easy.
There was a period of my life that I was very lost and I was ready to quit guitar. The most important lesson in my life was sitting in one economics class, and I was like, no way I'm here. I'm out. I need to play guitar. Then naturally, I was practicing. There's many things that helped me get back on track, but I think the main thing is the people that believe in me, my roommates, my teachers.
When I hear somebody play, I hear a certain creativity. I hear something that moves me, and that's what he had. He had really felt music deeply. He had worked really hard to play as well as he did.
After rediscovering his passion for guitar and earning major awards across 5 continents, Anh Chen has returned to give back, not only to his homeland, but also to guitar lovers around the world through international guitar workshops held right here in Vietnam.
He said, the sound I make with the guitar sounds a little bit rough. He came to me, he moved my hand, and he said, try this, and a completely different, beautiful sound came out that I never noticed I was lacking. This helps us improve a lot.
4, 3, 2, 1.
As a passionate educator, An not only refines his students' skills, but also immerses them in the rich cultural stories behind each piece. His deep connection to Vietnamese music inspires them, igniting in his students the desire to share the artistic essence of Vietnam with the world.
He uses the guitar to create imitations of traditional Vietnamese instruments like Dan Bao. The way he does it is just amazing. Like, he has all the different instruments packed inside of the guitar, and it's totally innovative, makes the atmosphere of the Vietnamese music totally come alive. So it's super nice.
Mình học được ở thầy rất là nhiều về cách mà mang những cái bản sắc tốt đẹp của dân tộc mình đi ra thế giới. Mình cũng rất là muốn trở thành một cái con người mà có thể truyền bá được văn hóa của Việt Nam ra bên nước ngoài.
I really want to be a bridge between the two cultures. I'm far away, but I'm forever Vietnamese, right? So this is my culture, my tradition, my identity.
From the quiet echo of lullabies to the spotlight of international stages, An Chen's journey is a testament to resilience, passion, and identity. With each note, he invites the world to hear Vietnam, not just as music, but as a living, breathing story worth sharing.
And that is the end of our program. If you'd like to catch us online, download the VTV Go app from your Google Play or App Store, or tune in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/VTV4Go for more of our programs. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of Culture Mosaic. Goodbye for now.
Vietnam's fruits, diverse by nature.
Net Zero 2050, together with Vietnam today.
and welcome to Newsline, the news bulletin of Vietnam today. You're with me, Lina Pham.
And I'm Brian Pham, and here are some top news of the hour.
Hello and welcome to Newsline of Vietnam today. You're with me, Lina Pham.
And I'm Brian Pham, and here are our top story of the hour.
Vietnamese Heritage Complex recognized as UNESCO World Cultural Heritage.
And Vietnam ranks second in Southeast Asia for data center investment returns.
And later on, EU reaffirms support for Ukraine.
And here's the first story of the hour. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính attended a ceremony at the Yên Tử Historical and Scenic Site in Quảng Ninh Province last night, August 17, where it was officially announced that UNESCO has recognized the complex as a World Cultural Heritage Site. The UN body has awarded the designations due to the outstanding universal value of Yên Tử, Vĩnh Nghiêm, Côn Sơn, Kiếp Bạc complex. The Prime Minister emphasized that this status affirmed the international community high regard for the value of the heritage, the humanistic ideals of Trúc-Lâm Buddhism founded by Emperor Trần Nhân Tông, and the efforts of Quảng Ninh, Bắc Ninh, and Hải Phòng provinces in preserving and promoting the heritage. The Prime Minister urged improvement to the legal framework and management plans to ensure sustainable preservation and promotions of the heritage. He also called for decisive action so that culture becomes the nation's soft power and endogenous strength, allowing Vietnamese culture to shine for generations.
And this morning, August the 19th, Politburo and Party Central Committee members attended a ceremony to inaugurate a memorial plaque and open an exhibition at number 48 Hàng Ngang in Hanoi. The historic house was the workplace of the Standing Committee of the Central Committee during the early days of the August Revolution in 1945, and where President Ho Chi Minh drafted the Declaration of Independence, founding the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. It was here that key decisions on domestic and foreign policy, the provisional government, and the Independence Day celebration were made. The site not only bears witness to historic national events, but also stands as a symbol of revolutionary wisdom, strategic vision, patriotism, independence, and the Vietnamese people's aspiration for peace. To mark the 80th anniversary of the August Revolution and National Day, Hanoi has restored and recreated the historic space of house number 48 Hàng Ngang for locals and visitors to explore. And now we'll come to a special feature on the 80th anniversary of the National Day, presented by Brian Pham.
Well, thank you, Lina Pham. And as we can all see, the special atmosphere around every corner of the country. And the special art event, proud to be Vietnamese, hosted by the Central Committee's Commission for Information and Education, took place tonight, August 18, at Meeting National Stadium Square. And as one of the key national events marking the 80th anniversary of the August Revolution and National Day, it is expected to draw 30,000 spectators. Politburo member and head of the commissions, Nguyễn Trọng Nghĩa, is attending. The event is designed as an artistic epic honoring national roots and looking toward the future. Elaborate performances celebrate Vietnam's proud history of nation building and defense, while expressing deep gratitude to the party, President Ho Chi Minh, and generations who sacrificed for independence and reunification. The night features a blend of traditional and modern music with large-scale live stage performances, delivering a powerful visual and emotional experience. And alongside this major celebration, young peoples are also finding creative ways to express their patriotism through a design that carry the very spirit of Vietnam.
What a fantastic atmosphere. I wish I were there, Brian. But now let's move to Ho Chi Minh City. Our story takes us to Ho Chi Minh City, where students are turning everyday items into symbols of national pride. And that pride took root in the historic autumn of 1945, when President Ho Chi Minh read the Declaration of Independence. And this moment forever lives in the hearts of every Vietnamese.
For today, young generation pride is expressed through designs, reaching Vietnamese identity, serving as a creative way to show their love for the homeland.
Conical hats, red flags with yellow stars, and the image of President Ho Chi Minh are being brought into everyday products like handbags, water bottles, and wall paintings. These Vietnam-inspired designs are the heartfelt creations of a group of youngsters in celebration of the National Day on September the 2nd.
I feel proud to design Vietnam-inspired products as they help spread patriotism and national spirit among customers. This year it feels especially meaningful with the country celebrating many important milestones.
These products are a reminder that national pride lives within us, ensuring the younger generation will always remember the achievements and sacrifices of our forefathers.
Water bottles, check scarves, and notebooks are no longer just everyday items. With designs inspired by the homeland, they become a heartfelt way for youngsters to express their love for the country.
There are many ways to show national pride. Even if I can't do something big, using Vietnam-inspired items helps me share my patriotism and feel the presence of that love all around us.
From small keepsakes printed with Vietnam's familiar to the excitement of awaiting the national parade, young people are expressing their love for the country in different ways, yet all their hearts beat as one for the homeland.
Hanoi has become the most searched domestic destination for travelers over the National Day holiday. And according to Booking.com, the capital city is drawing crowds with a vibrant lineup of festival and culture events, appealing not only to solo visitors, but also to families and groups. At Nội Bài International Airport, passengers numbers are expected to hit a record high with nearly 110,000 travelers forecast on the peak day. The rate is around 20% higher than the same period last year. To ensure smooth operation, Level 1 aviation security measures will be in place from August 26 to September 4th. Meanwhile, the city bus services are also bracing for a surge. Passenger traffic is projected to triple during the holiday period. To meet demand, an extra 1,000 buses will be deployed with schedules tailored to passenger flows. Authorities say close coordination with transport and security forces will be crucial to prevent overloading, inflated ticket prices, and congestions across the city. And this day, every Hanoi street and corner is filled with Vietnamese national flags and flowers ready for the upcoming historic celebrations. Millions of hearts across the country are turning toward the capital. In Hanoi, people embrace the spirit in their own unique way. And now let's take a look.
Ian has lived in this modest house in Hang Luk Street since childhood. She was just 7 years old on Vietnam's very first National Day. 8 decades have gone by, yet the memories of those celebrations remain as vivid as ever.
In those days, we gathered at school at noon, lined up in order, and then walked to Baoding Square to see President Ho Chi Minh.
Meanwhile, the younger generation immerses themselves in the vibrant city streets. Though generations differ, they all shared one common bond, a profound love for the nation.
Seeing the national flags everywhere makes me feel deeply moved.
On Độc Lập Street, a sea of national flags draws visitors not only for photos, but also for a stronger sense of the word independence itself.
My generation endured many hardships, so we truly understand the value of peace. Today, I feel deeply proud that our country stands more dignified and more beautiful, just as Uncle Ho once wished.
On Hùng Vương Street, old houses has been cleared, opened up a broader, more spacious road that leads straight to Baoding Square. Here, construction for Grand 80th National Day celebrations is being rushed to completion.
I must witness the parade. I will go to the parade routes to experience the extraordinary spirit of the nation's firsthand.
80 autumns of history have passed, and countless more lie ahead. They are seasons of freedom, unity, and joy when millions of hearts beat together as one.
Coming up next, draft resolution on establishing international financial centers under review. And Vietnam ranks second in Southeast Asia for data center investment return.
When it comes to business, it's crucial to choose a smart location with global impact. And Vietnam might just be the location for you. Connect worldwide to advanced logistics networks. Smart Hub for technology and innovation. A dynamic business ecosystem. An environment with a competitive edge. The opportunities abound.
You're watching Newsline. The Ministry of Finance is seeking public feedback on the draft resolution to establish international financial centers in Ho Chi Minh and Da Nang cities, each with distinct roles and development orientations. According to the draft, a local governing body will directly manage all activities within the financial center and develop an online membership registration and recognition system linked to the National Business Registry. This aims to streamline administrative procedures and remove long-standing bottlenecks for businesses. The draft also proposes that localities allocate land funds to develop housing, transport, and technology infrastructure while planning high-quality workforce training programs for the financial center.
Vietnam is experiencing a data center investment boom, with the first half of 2025 seeing a surge in large-scale and hyperscale projects nationwide. According to Cushman & Wakefield's latest Asia-Pacific Data Center Investment Landscape Report, Vietnam now ranks second in Southeast Asia for data center investment returns, with a yield on cost of 17.5 to 18.8%, just behind Singapore, 21 to 23%. The country also offers some of the lowest development costs in the region at $7.1 million per megawatt. Hyperscale center handling thousands of CPU cores and over 100 megawatts of power, equivalent to 350,000 to 400,000 electric cars power consumptions, are driving growth.
Those are impressive numbers, Brian. And for the audience out there, here's an update. Vietnam is now standing just behind Singapore in the Southeast Asian region in data center investment returns. Truly shows how strong the country's digital economy is becoming.
And exactly. And it's not just about national rankings. On the ground, we are seeing major investment taking shape, especially in Ho Chi Minh City.
Exactly. And the city is quickly turning into a hotspot for hyperscale projects. And with a new $250 million data center set to break ground, Ho Chi Minh City is cementing its ambition to become a regional digital hub.
Yes, and as for hyperscale, with a total investment of $250 million to be built soon, Ho Chi Minh City is becoming an attractive destination for businesses to invest in data center. And with a number of large-scale data centers already built, the city is expected to attract more R&D centers, AI startups, investment funds, and technological facility, helping to realize its ambitions to become a regional digital hub.
In the past 3 years, large-scale data centers with a capacity of over 10 megawatts have operated in Ho Chi Minh City. The latest center, with an initial capacity of 30 megawatts, will start construction next year.
I think Vietnam itself is one of the top 5 markets within Southeast Asia, and we have been seeing a lot of demand for the data center coming into Southeast Asia, and potentially some of it coming into Vietnam itself.
Previously, when it came to AI models, Vietnamese businesses had to hire foreign businesses. We had to pay in foreign currency, and the data had to be sent abroad. But now everything will be done in Vietnam.
To incentivize private capital to invest in data centers, Ho Chi Minh City is prioritizing budget allocation for faster investment and construction of digital infrastructure.
The city must invest in multi-purpose IT centers so that large enterprises can build data centers on top of these centers. It will develop production and additional services with high added value.
In the next 2 years, global spending on cloud computing will exceed $1 trillion, opening up many opportunities for data center investment. Ho Chi Minh City is said to have ample room for both domestic and foreign investment into large-scale data centers in the coming time.
Now it can be seen that Vietnam's data center boom is turning heads across Southeast Asia. What fueling the surge? We speak with Mr. Peter Schweimuth of Cushman & Wakefield Asia Pacific. Well, thank you for joining us. Your reports show that Vietnam ranks second in Southeast Asia for data center yield and cost. And so how does this indicate potentials and attractiveness of Vietnam as a destination for data center?
Sure. So if you look at the total capacity currently, Vietnam is in the early stage, I would say about 60 megawatts, close to 60 megawatts is operational in the country. And there is about 120 megawatts in the development pipeline, plus there's some land banking that has happened. So when you compare Vietnam's population, it comes to about 1.7 million population per megawatt of operational capacity. In Thailand, it is about 625,000 people per megawatt, which is literally one third of what Vietnam is. Vietnam is forecasted to grow at 7% until 2030, average annual GDP growth rate of 7%. So, which is again a driving factor. In addition, mobile phone consumption right now is close to about 13 gigawatts or gigabytes per phone per month. So these are various driving factors that are contributing towards Vietnam's growth and likely to see over the next 5 to 6 years.
Thank you, Ms. Giang Bui, for your insight. Vietnam's data center market is growing at a compound annual rate of over 10%, according to Research and Markets. With large potential, the Vietnam's market value is forecast to surpass $1 billion in the next 3 years, with AI-driven centers as the main trend.
And coming up next, EU reaffirms support for Ukraine. And flooding in northwest Pakistan kills at least 220 people.
Now moving on, the presidents of the European Commission held talks with the presidents of Ukraine in Brussels last night, Vietnam time. The move came just ahead of the Ukrainian president's trip to the United States, together with European leaders to meet U.S. President Donald Trump and discuss a peace solution for Ukraine. So what do you think will happen?
Yes, Brian, ultimately, if there isn't a peace agreement, if there isn't an end to this war, there are going to be consequences. Russian President Putin agreed at his summit in Alaska that the U.S. and its Europe allies could offer Ukraine a security guarantee resembling NATO's collective defense mandate as part of an eventual deal to end this conflict. And if it was the first time we had ever heard the Russian agree to do that. So the upcoming trip of Ukrainian president to the U.S. could potentially open door to future peace agreement.
The talks between the president of Ukraine and the president of the European Commission concluded with the European Union's pledge to continue providing military and security support to Ukraine. The goal is to safeguard territorial integrity while working towards a lasting peace in Ukraine.
And we continue to support Ukraine's path to its membership in the European Union. This in itself is also a security guarantee.
The European Commission President proposed an EU-led security guarantee for Ukraine, akin to NATO's Article 5, with voluntary participation from member states. Ukraine will receive drones and defense industry investment, while the EU keeps diplomatic and economic pressures on Russia.
We will continue to strengthen sanctions. We have adopted 18 packages so far, and we are advancing preparation for the 19th. This package will be forthcoming in early September.
So it's necessary to cease fire and work quickly on a final deal.
European officials' statements following the meeting with the Ukrainian president reflect a degree of unity between the EU and Ukraine ahead of his talks with the U.S. president. This could influence Washington's approach when proposing solutions for a lasting peace in Ukraine.
And now the summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will take place today in Washington. European leaders will join to strengthen U.S.-EU coordination in safeguarding Ukraine's interests and Europe's security. Confirmed participants include French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Finnish President Alexander Stubb, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. President Trump and President Zelensky are expected to hold a private meeting before joining European leaders for broader discussions aimed at advancing a swift peace agreement to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Now moving to other parts of the world. For over 2 weeks, different countries have been participating in the delivery of aid from planes. The airdrops are not adequate for Gaza, UN and humanitarian agencies say, as they don't reach those most in need and sometimes fall in the sea or red zones and even overcrowded area with tents injuring or killing people. The airdrops comes as Israel is preparing to move Palestinians from the combat zone to southern Gaza as plans to move ahead for a military offensive in some of the territory most populated area. The military said it had no comment on when the mass movement of Palestinians would begin, but Defense Minister Israel Katz said on social media that they are now in the stage of discussions to finalize the plan to defeat Hamas in Gaza.
And now is an update on the situation in Israel. Thousands of Israelis protested on Sunday evening in Tel Aviv as part of a nationwide strike to support the families of hostages held in Gaza, calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach an agreement with Hamas to end the conflict and release the remaining captives. Demonstrators waved Israeli flags and carried photos of hostages as whistles, horns, and drums echoed at the rally.
Ahead of Sunday, some businesses and institutions said they would allow staff to join the nationwide strike, which was found by the hostages' families. While some businesses closed, many also remained open across the country on what is a working day in Israel. Schools are on summer recess and were not affected.
I wish this day will move something, will bring some sort of agreement, and I just want the war to be over. I don't want any more death, any more suffering. I think we had enough.
The Prime Minister said his government was determined to implement a decision for the military to seize Gaza City, one of the last major areas of the enclave it does not already control.
To put some pressure on everyone to get into an agreement, to get into a hostage agreement, and to get our hostages back. And whatever we can do, we'll do.
That decision is widely unpopular among Israelis and many of the hostages' families who fear an expanded military campaign in Gaza could risk the lives of their loved ones still held captive. There are 50 hostages held by militants in Gaza, of which Israeli officials believe around 20 are still alive.
Flooding in a northwest Pakistani district has killed at least 220 people as rescuers pulled 63 more bodies overnight from homes flattened by flash floods and landslide. Pakistan has experienced unusual heavy monsoon rainfall this year, which experts attribute to climate change. The resulting floods and mudslides have claimed around 541 lives since June 26. According to the National Disaster Management Authorities, hundreds of rescue workers are still searching for survivors in Banner, one of several places in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province where torrential rains and cloudbursts caused massive flooding on Friday. Dozens of homes were swept away.
And meanwhile, flash floods in North China's Inner Mongolia have killed 10 campers, with 2 still missing. Local authorities said Sunday the disaster struck late Saturday in Urat Ria Banner, Banyakur City, where 13 people were swept away. 1 survivor was rescued, and over 700 rescuers are searching for the missing. Heavy rain also hit nearby areas, prompting flash flood warnings. Rescuers saved stranded passengers on an expressway and evacuated residents from low-lying farms. More storms are expected, and officials urge travelers to avoid wilderness area during flood season. The local meteorological service has warned of further storms with possible thunderstorms and strong winds in the coming days. China's Ministry of Emergency Management has urged travelers to avoid underdeveloped wilderness areas and remain cautious in flood-prone zones during the rainy season.
Now, Turkish authority reported yesterday that a new wildfire has broke down in Kanakkale province, northwest Turkey, forcing the evacuation of residents from 5 villages. Winds in the areas are forecast to reach up to 50 kilometers per hour, raising the risk of the fire spreading quickly and threatening nearby communities. Local authorities have deployed 11 planes, 10 helicopters, and ground crews in a full-scale effort to bring the blaze under control. Over the past month, several provinces in northwest Turkey has faced recurring wildfires driven by extreme heat, low humidity, and strong winds. And that's it for this hour on Newsline.
And to catch us again, you can log on to vtv4.vn or tune in our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.
And that's it for this hour on Newsline.
If you'd like to catch us online, download the VTV Go app or tune in our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.
Vietnam Today, where faith meets harmony.
Stay informed, stay connected.
This is Inside Asia, your weekly passport to the pulse of Asia. I'm Thao Chang.
And I'm Hoàng Anh, coming to you from Hanoi, Vietnam.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit China later this month to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin. The announcement was confirmed by India's National Security Advisor during a meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in New Delhi. The Indian side stressed that bilateral ties are progressing positively, with peaceful and stable borders and increasing substantive cooperation. This will be Prime Minister Modi's first visit to China since 2018. Now, Hoàng Anh, with all these high-level visits, it seems that countries are stepping up towards, better efforts ahead of these high-level visits. Isn't that right?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, South Korea is also stepping ahead with the diplomatic effort since South Korean President Lee Jae-myung met with top executives from leading corporations in South Korea to discuss strategy ahead of next week's summit with U.S. President Donald Trump. President Lee Jae-myung spoke directly with leaders from Samsung, SK, LG, Hyundai Motor, and Hanwha corporations that will accompany him on his trip to Washington, D.C. And one main topic expected at the summit is cooperation in shipbuilding, a sector prioritized by the U.S. and central to recent tariff negotiations. However, Korean officials have not disclosed further details.
In other news, King Jigme Kisar Namjen Wangchuk of Bhutan and Queen Jetsun Petma paid a state visit to Vietnam on the occasion of Vietnam's 80th National Day. Bhutan is known for its carbon-negative economy and over 70 forest coverage, making it a global model of sustainable and harmonious development. The visit is expected to open a new chapter in practical and mutually beneficial cooperation aimed at enhancing people's happiness and contribution to regional peace and prosperity. And what's another regional and notable development of this region, Thao Anh?
That's a very good question, Thao Chang. Another key development comes from Japan. While Bhutan is drawing attention for the sustainable growth, Tokyo, on the other hand, is focusing on the wealth health. Japan will contribute $550 million over the next 5 years to support an international organization that provides vaccines to children in developing countries. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba during a meeting with Microsoft founder Bill Gates. The pledge is set to be officially announced at the upcoming Tokyo International Conference on African Development in Yokohama from August 20 to 22nd.
And that effort really goes to show the possibilities of public-private partnerships. And on that topic, moving on to India, where hundreds of passengers were safely rescued after an electric train derailed in Mumbai, India. The incident occurred during a heavy rainfall and was attributed to overcrowding and a power outage. Mumbai reported over 140 millimeters of rains in some areas, causing flooding and disruption on several train lines, tempting passengers to crowd onto a single route. Emergency services, including the fire department and local police, launched a swift rescue operation.
Also, China's Ministry of Water Resources has activated a level 4 emergency response to address flood threats in several provinces, including Tianjin, Hebei, Liaoning, and Yunnan. The warning follows forecasts of heavy rainfall and potential flash floods, with alerts also issued for Beijing. Medium and small rivers are at risk of reaching warning levels from now through August 22nd.
Across Asia this week, the weather is no longer just a backdrop. It's the headline. From deadly floods in China to emergency alerts in Pakistan and historic drought rippling Syria, the climate is shifting fast and the impacts are hitting harder than ever. In today's deep dive, we go beyond the daily updates to uncover the bigger pictures. Why are these extreme weather events becoming more frequent? What's driving their intensity?
Yes, and to answer that question, Tao Zhang, torrential rain across Pakistan North have caused flooding and landslide that have swept away entire villages, leaving many residents trapped in the rubble and scores missing. The devastating Pakistan floods have killed 670 people and left more than 1,000 injured. According to the country's National Disaster Management Authority, the monsoon disaster has triggered mass evacuations, with 25,000 people shipped to safer locations.
Rescuers dug through mud and stone in heart of the Lori village in Kibo Bakhtunkhwa province in the hope of finding survivors and the bodies of people missing. Villagers stood watching and praying as the rescuers worked a day after the search was halted by more intense rain.
We have brought psychiatrists for survivors because people are suffering from trauma. I will also request the administration to arrange additional counseling. We're seeing that people were traumatized in a similar way. It becomes very difficult for us when we face such people.
In just minutes, a torrent of water and rocks swept down on the village of Dolori on Monday, destroying at least 15 houses, damaging several others, and killing 9 people. 20 villagers are still trapped under debris.
It's an apocalyptic thing. Your word, terrifying. It's black. Seconds swept away. My father, elderly, quickly. Others managed to escape, but I was trying to carry him. But when I saw the coming, one tried to live, the flood had already reached.
Heavy monsoon rains also pounded Karachi, Pakistan's largest city, bringing low-lying areas to a standstill, where severe flooding, traffic gridlock, and power outages.
There is a lot of water in Britain, but there is choose to soak in when I reached the office. Dewatering machines were seen at few places, but not throughout the city. So I request to the governments that there should be power mill machines so that the water can be cleared out. It is causing inconvenience to the people.
Pakistan government has issued new flood alerts, warning people to avoid travel to vulnerable areas as this year's monsoon is affected by some unpredictable phenomena.
The monsoon 2025 is unique in a sense that in this monsoon we are witnessing the confluence of two different systems. Under the influence of these two different systems, the clouds that are developing this year are more thicker, and also the overall swath of the monsoon has extended.
Under the complicated weather patterns, the resulting cloudburst, sudden extreme downpour that dumped more than 100 millimeters of rain in an hour, have devastated northwestern Pakistan. Authorities warned they could not rule out a repeat of the catastrophic 2022 floods, which killed nearly 1,700 people.
Hundreds of lives lost, entire village swept away. The monsoon floods in northern Pakistan have left behind devastation and heartbreak. Sadly, this is no longer an isolated event, but extreme weather has become more frequent, more violent, a harsh reminder of the climate crisis we all face.
And what's striking, Tao Zhang, is that in Asia, rain has always been seen as a blessing of a symbol of renewal, but now it's also becoming a warning that sudden cloudbursts and longer downpours will only grow stronger. Have you ever wondered why rain, once a lifeline here, is now turning into a threat?
That's exactly it. And cloudbursts are not just storms, they're flash disasters. The ground can absorb water, and within minutes, whole communities are underwater. So the real question is, can our cities with so many people and so much rapid construction keep up with this new normal?
And that is where science matters, because to prepare, we first need to understand. So coming up, we turn to Professor Johnny Chan, one of Asia's leading climatologists with decades of research. He helps explain why these dangerous weather extremes are intensifying and what they mean for the future of our region.
Cloudbursts are sudden and violent with devastating consequences and widespread destruction, and can be equivalent to several hours of normal rainfall or longer. The event is the bustling of clouds and the discharge of its contents at the same time, like a rain bomb.
In 10 minutes or 20 minutes, when you have lots of water coming down from the cloud, and so that's why it's called burst, and it's coming from the sky, from the cloud, therefore it's called cloudburst. Basically a thunderstorm. So when there's lots of water coming in the thunderstorm, then it comes down in a relatively short period of time, so it looks like a burst. And so that's why it's called a cloudburst. And so basically what it means is that this heavy rain coming down in a relatively short period of time.
Cloudbursts thrived in moisture, monsoons, and mountains. Regions of India and Pakistan have all three, making them vulnerable to these extreme weather events.
Number one, the river cannot sustain that flow rate, and so therefore there will be flash flooding. And number two, the problem with many of the places is that they have a lot of deforestation. So they chop down the trees, and so therefore trees have a very important function, which is to hold the topsoil. Now, if you chop down all the trees, then what happens is that there's no more trees to hold the topsoil, and so when you have heavy rain, and the topsoil gets washed down, and therefore you will have landslides.
The frequencies of cloudbursts in these two South Asian nations has been steadily rising due to a warming atmosphere, because the warmer air mass can hold more moisture, creating conditions for sudden and intense downpours, often leading to floods and landslides.
The reason why we expect to have more heavy rain is because global warming tends to allow more water vapor to be present in the atmosphere, and so therefore when you squeeze the water vapor out, you can get heavier rain. So this is on a global scale because of global warming.
The devastation brought by the floods in Pakistan and surrounding area this year is what the climate crisis looks like at about 1.2 degrees Celsius of global warming since industrialization. But the world is on track for around 3 degrees Celsius of warming by the end of the century, as humans continue to burn planet-heating fossil fuels, and scientists warn that every fraction of a degree of warming will worsen the impacts of the crisis.
While some parts of Asia are drowning under relentless rain, others are parched by the absence of it. If cloudbursts are the violent outbursts of a warming atmosphere, then droughts are its long, suffocating silence, and both are signs of a climate system in distress.
In Syria, that silence has stretched into the country's worst drought in 36 years, slashing wheat productions by nearly 40%. And what's unfolding is no longer just an environmental concern. It's also the start of potential food crisis.
And Syria faces a potential food crisis, after the worst drought in 36 years slashed wheat production by around 40%, squeezing the country's cash-strapped government, which has been unable to secure large-scale purchases. Let's see what happens in Syria.
That's Othman, a wheat farmer from Qamishlo, part of Syria's breadbasket region in northeast Hasakah province, didn't harvest a single grain.
This year, we planted 6 hectares and we harvested nothing. The crops didn't grow, and even the shepherds didn't benefit from the land. We incurred huge losses, including farm wages, seed, and fertilizer. We lost all of these costs.
Around 3 million Syrians could face severe hunger, according to the United Nations World Food Programme. Over half of the population of about 25.6 million is currently food insecure. In a June report, the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization estimated that Syria faced a wheat shortfall of 2.73 million tons this year, or enough to feed around 16 million people for a year. The situation poses a challenge to the new government, which is seeking to rebuild Syria after 14-year civil war.
Local production does not cover more than 2 to 3% of local demand, especially after a year of drought that hit Syria. Never in Syria's history has there been a year like this one, and therefore it can't be relied upon, especially since the main food in Syria is bread.
Wheat is Syria's most important crop and supports a state-subsidized bread program, a vital part of everyday life. Yet the government has been slow to mobilize international support for big grain purchases.
So far, no quantities of aid have arrived in Syria, except for a grant from the Iraqi brother. Other than that, it is being purchased by the Syrian government.
The new government has only purchased 373,500 tons of wheat from local farmers this season. That is around half of last year's volume. So far, however, Damas has not announced any major wheat import deals and is relying on small private shipments amounting to around 200,000 tons in total through direct contracts with local importers. Meanwhile, in a major U.S. policy shift in May, U.S. President Donald Trump said he would lift sanctions on Syria that risk holding back its economic recovery. Still, Syria's main grain buying agency is yet to announce a new purchasing strategy.
When nature strikes, we often ask, what went wrong? But the more important question is, what can we do, right, Tao Chao?
Absolutely. From flash floods in Pakistan to drought in Syria, the message is clear. The climate crisis is no longer abstract. Yet, amid these challenges, a new awareness is quietly taking root across Asia, especially in how we travel.
In this week's Asia's Trend, we explore how more and more travelers and destinations are embracing a greener, more responsible way to explore the world.
But first, let's take a look at how Vietnamese people prepare for this special national holiday. With its timeless charm, rich heritage, and peaceful brims, Hue City stands out as one of the most enchanting getaways for the upcoming holiday. You know, every time I visit Hue, it feels like a place where time slows down. I just love the city so much. And did you know Hue City provides free admission for several tourist attractions for Vietnamese citizens on national holiday, September the 2nd. Visitors only need to bring their citizen identification cards to access heritage sites, including the Imperial Citadel, Tu Duc Tom, Hue Royal Antiques Museum, Anding Palace, and Hon Chen Temple. Sites will be open from 7 to 5 p.m. And the Hue Monuments Conservation Center say it will deploy sufficient staff and tour guides to assist visitors during the special holidays. What about you, Hang Anh? What's your favorite city to visit?
Well, it's really hard to pick my favorite because, I have a lot. But if I have to pick one, I would have to say Ho Chi Minh City. And fun fact about this city is that a massive mural titled Beautiful Vietnam was just unveiled here with a length of nearly 600 meters and total area of 2,600 square meters. It is now the largest mural street in Vietnam. The artwork marks the 80th anniversary of the August Revolution's Vietnam's National Day and the founding of the Vietnamese police force.
Turning our attention to Thailand, the country will launch the Tourist DigiPay program in the fourth quarter of this year, allowing international visitors to pay using cryptocurrency. Digital assets will be converted to Thai baht and stored in an e-wallet, usable via QR code in stores, restaurants, and even street vendors. The government expects this year to boost tourist spending by 10% and offer a convenient cashless payment option for foreigners.
And while speaking of tourism, in the sun-drenched coastal land of Quang Tri, Vietnam mangrove forests stand tall with a unique beauty that needs to be preserved. These coastal green belts are not only natural barriers against wave and floods, protecting seaside communities, but also vibrant ecosystems, teeming with the marine life and offering sustainable economic opportunities to local residents.
Since they were first planted in 2010, these mangroves have gradually changed the lives of the people of Bac Phuc village. Every year, aquaculture and farming beneath the forest canopy generate stable incomes of $8,000 to $12,000 per household.
I was allocated 22 hectares by the local government. Each year, the yield of shrimp and fish varies, but this year is very abundant. Thanks to these mangroves, my family's finances are now stable and much better off.
Currently, over 350 households in Bac Phước are living in harmony with more than 60 hectares of mangrove forest. These forests not only prevent coastal erosion and regulate the climate, but also offer shaded, refreshing spaces.
Coming here gives me a deep sense of peace. The air is cool and clean. I really love this place.
To protect these forests, the local authorities of Nam Cư Viet Commune have stepped up awareness campaigns and encouraged natural aquaculture under the forest canopy.
Our village has set clear rules. Residents, both locals and outsiders, who violate the guidelines on excessive fishing or aquaculture will be reported. We'll document the case and send it to higher authorities and the local police for action.
We plan to designate this area as an ecotourism zone and invite investment to develop it further, connecting it with our signature seafood products and the East-West Economic Corridor to improve accessibility for investors and tourists.
As of now, Guangxi Province boasts over 200 hectares of mangrove forests. These forests have grown into green lungs that shield coastal villages, preserve aquatic resources, and support livelihoods, while also paving the way for sustainable tourism development. Amidst these endless stretches of green lies the quiet confidence of coastal people, firmly rooted in nature, nurturing hope for a peaceful and prosperous future.
Across Asia, nature doesn't just sustain life, it inspires journeys. While Vietnam mangrove shelter coastal livelihoods, further north, the sweeping grasslands of China are drawing travelers in search of beauty, culture, and wide open skies. The stunning scenery and tapestry of folk culture in China's grasslands have given rise to a wave of tourism to the country's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region in the north and Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in the west. Let's visit this special place in our following story.
Visiting spectators gather to view thrilling folk sporting events like horse racing and archery in the grassland of Georgi County in Ulanqab, Inner Mongolia. Over 300 horses galloped under the control of herders at the event. In the traditional 10-kilometer horse racing competition, 28 participants from Inner Mongolia's Hohhot, Baotou, and Ulanqab competed in a 2-kilometer track, showcasing their speed and skills. A 15-year-old contestant from Baotou City won the championship.
This horse is 5 years old this year. I've been with it since it was a baby because I was there when it was born. We won the championship in this competition and I am so happy.
Outside of the sporting grounds, the grasslands come alive with herds of yaks, camels, and livestock, offering visitors a timeless glimpse into nomadic life.
I came here specially to experience this unique folk activity. On the way, I saw herds of cattle and sheep, all brimming with the atmosphere of folk culture.
Since late July, the Makanwan grassland in Mulay County, Xinjiang, has entered the most beautiful season of midsummer. Many travelers visit the county to enjoy the cool weather and enjoy the scenery. The Makanwan grassland is a picturesque oval-shaped depression nestled among towering mountains at an altitude of 2,300 meters. Rich in biodiversity, the grasslands teems with diverse flora and fauna, making it the primary summer grazing ground for Mulay County.
As we close this week's edition of Inside Asia, we take you to a quieter moment where in Van Lake, a basin, Turkey, the flamingos have returned, making quite a scene. They're called Ali Turna. Isn't that quite beautiful?
It really is, Tao Chang. I mean, just look at them. These beautiful flamingos with their striking red and white feathers set against the deep blue of the lake and those golden sunsets. It's no wonder they have become a favorite for photographers and nature lovers. And as they return year after year, this stopover is a gentle reminder of how powerful and peaceful nature's rhythm can be.
And that concludes this week's edition of Inside Asia.
We will see you next week, this time on Inside Asia.
Here's our today's headlines. Vietnam becomes world's second largest rice exporter. US raises tariffs on over 400 aluminium and steel products. Hello and welcome to Daily Biz on Vietnam Today. You're with Vũ Anh. I'm here to bring you key business and economic highlights of the day. Let's take a look at the figures today. US stock finish mixed on Tuesday as witnessed in tech-weighted markets. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 10.45 points to 41,922.27. The S&P 500 decreased by 6.4%, while Nasdaq Composite ended at 21,314. In Europe, the Euro Stock 50 index was up 0.3% in the morning trade. Later, we'll have analysis on the figure in the European market. Now let's go deeper with the US stock. 7 of the 11 primary S&P 500 sectors closed higher. Real estate led the gains with a 1.8% rise, followed by consumer staples. Technology and communication services were the biggest laggards. Mega cap tech stocks extended declines, dragging on the broader market. Nvidia and Broadcom each fell around 3.5%. Meta Platforms slipped 2%, and Microsoft, Amazon, and Tesla lost 1.5% apiece. Apple and Alphabet posted small losses. Looking ahead, investors are awaiting remarks from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium later this week for clues on monetary policies. According to CME's FedWatch tool, markets are pricing at an 83% probability of a quarter-point rate cut at the Fed September meeting. In Frankfurt, European shares rose slightly today as investors wait the possibility of a Russian-Ukraine peace deal following a US-European meeting in Washington.
The Pan-European Stock 600 index was up 0.3% in the morning trade, while the FANG stocks tumbled between 3.5% and 6.4%. Analysts say the markets are reacting cautiously to the new diplomatic signals from the US and Europe.
The stock market is hardly moving. On the one hand, everyone is hoping for progress in the peace process in Ukraine. But on the other hand, we know that a real ceasefire is still a long way off. The positive aspect is that Europe is now more deeply involved and showing its geopolitical weight.
According to Mr. Halver, Europe will have to bear significant costs to support Ukraine, but this could also bring opportunities.
US has pledged to guarantee Ukraine's security, but Europe is the one footing the entire bill. That doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. If it helps strengthen EU solidarity, then it's money well spent.
Beyond the financial burden, the experts said Germany could benefit from participating in Ukraine's reconstruction.
If Europe spends money on weapons and aid, then in return, German companies could take the lead in rebuilding Ukraine. That will provide a vital boost to the economy, which is otherwise facing the risk of a prolonged recession.
While peace prospects remain uncertain, European markets are also awaiting fresh signals from the U.S. Federal Reserve's Jackson Hole Symposium later this week.
Consistently breaking through resistance levels, the VN Index marks its strongest growth in the past 3 years. At the closing of the morning session on July 22nd, the VN Index hit the 1,491.12 points. The underlying causes go beyond surface factors, driven by key forces propelling the VN Index forward. To help us understand more about this growth momentum, we have us here today with us Dr. Trần Thăng Long, Director of Research Center at BIDV Securities. It's a great pleasure to have you here with us today. So let's get straight into our first question. So what do you think are the causes as well as the key drivers behind the recent growth of the VN Index?
Over the last 3 months, everyone sees that VN Index is growing really high. We're now approaching our all-time high of 1,500, and it's the highest point we have since 2022. And we see that there are several reasons behind that. The first of all is our macroeconomy situation is quite stable, and Vietnamese government are now targeting a very high growth in terms of GDP, around like 8%. And because of that, the Vietnamese government are now supporting in terms of policy. The second one is the growing in terms of liquidity in the market. And especially in July, we see that there are several sections that the liquidity is getting over $1 billion to $1.2 billion, even higher than several emerging markets in Southeast Asia. And the last but not least, the growth of the market are now backed up by the growing in terms of profit. The number we have from the profit of the first quarter of 2025 of the overall VN Index is growing around like 12%, which is even quite high compared to several years.
Thank you. And how would you assess the quality of this growth?
So over the last 3 months, after the reciprocal tariff from the US, all markets is growing, and our markets, VN Index, is growing pretty fast compared to other markets, especially in Southeast Asia. And we find out that around 1/3 of the growing point is from the banking stock. The other 1/3 is from like large cap, like Vingroup stock or Galaxy Group. And the last one, the 1/3, is from other sector, big stock, like big cap, especially from the technologies and industry and also logistic firm.
And in the context of regional and global markets, is Vietnam benefiting from the overall trend, or are there any disadvantages setting it apart?
Vietnamese market is surely benefit from the recovery trends. Not only VN Index are growing, we also find that market, especially in Asia, the biggest stock market in the world is the US market. We have S&P 500, also the NASDAQ are growing. So Vietnam is not a standalone market. We are growing in same trends with market in Asia, also with most of the stock market over the last few months. And also our market also stand out compared to other when we come into the recent growing in our macroeconomies, because we are among the very few countries that targeting very high GDP growth, especially when the Vietnamese government are not just target a very high GDP growth this year, but target a very high GDP growth for the next 10 to 12 years.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Dr. Long. By mid-July, the VN Index had risen more than 6%, fueled by significant progress in Vietnam's negotiation on reciprocal taxation and its increasingly pivotal role in global supply chains. These developments are setting the stage for a positive market trajectory in the latter half of the year, opening up a wide array of potential investment opportunities. To fully capture the potentiality of this momentum, Vietnam must take crucial steps to refine the institutional framework, improve transparency, and most importantly, continue to enhance investor education. These are key to making Vietnam's stock market beneficial for all participants and attracting foreign investors. The Ministry of Finance draft of the amended law on investment proposes simplify investment approval procedures and enhance decentralization. These procedures apply only to projects significantly impacting the environment, national defense, security, national resources, and seaports and airport sectors. The policy aims to resolve current obstacles and accelerate investment. Additionally, narrowing the scope of projects requiring approval unlocks resources for economic development. These reforms are expected to drive Vietnam's sustainable economic and social growth. From August 19th, a government decree on land use fees and land rents is in force. The decree grants a 30% reduction in land rents for 2025 and those paying annually. The policy applies even to land users without full legal documents as long as they are subject to land rent payments in 2025. Even those yet to complete legal procedures on land use are still eligible for the reduction. The decree also stipulates other causes eligible for exemptions and reductions, including allocation of resettlement land or residential land to households and individuals in flood-prone resettlement areas in the Mekong Delta, allocation of residential land to fishing households and communities living on rivers, lagoons and waterways who relocate to planned resettlement areas. Vietnam has overtaken Thailand to become the world's second largest rice exporter in the first half of this year, according to the Thai Rice Exporter Association. This reflects a significant shift in Vietnam's rice sector, from exporting large volume to focusing on higher value shipments. In response, the Prime Minister directed the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development with relevant agencies to develop specific plans to maintain this position. He urged authorities to accelerate rice exports, particularly high-quality and organic rice, while strengthening traceability systems and building a national rice brand to enhance export value. The Prime Minister also called for faster implementation of the project to develop 1 million hectares of high-quality, low-emission rice in the Mekong Delta by 2030, in line with green growth goals. Vietnam's coastal provinces have launched a High Point campaign through August 2025 in a bid to have the European Commission revoke its yellow card on illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, IUU, fishing prevention and control. 21 coastal localities are coordinating with the Ministries of National Defense, the Ministry of Public Security, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment to inspect and strictly manage violating fishing vessels and fishing crews. Youth groups and local authorities actively promote IUU law awareness. Additionally, local leaders face accountability for violations. These efforts are expected to meet international standards and promote sustainable fishing in Vietnam. Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, organized the Green Hydrogen Summit 2025 in New Delhi as part of India's push towards clean energy. Held under the theme Aligning Policy, Demand and Technology, the Green Hydrogen Summit brought together key stakeholders from government agencies, industries, academia, and the international community. The focus was on actionable pathways to scale India's green hydrogen economy and align national efforts towards sustainability goals, highlighting India's evolving green hydrogen landscape. Union Minister of State for Power and New and Renewable Energy, Shripat Yesso Nak, said green hydrogen stands out as a promising and transformative solution. And you've been watching Daily Biz with me, Vũ Anh. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you again in our next edition on Vietnam Today.
Touching Vietnam. One land, 54 ethnic groups, 54 colors. One heartbeat. Where stories are not just told, but lived, shaped by time, woven by hands, passed down through generations. Voices carried by the wind, dances through time. In every celebration, the echoes of our ancestors. Where tradition meets today, unity in diversity. "54 ethnic souls, beating as one. One Vietnam. Touching Vietnam, a cultural odyssey on Vietnam today."
Vietnamese coming here are really interested in seeing, because we wanted to share the southern Vietnamese food that we grew up eating. Vietnamese province. So that's why I said that we're going to have a Vietnamese town here in New York.
New York is a city famous as a cultural, artistic, global business hub. This also means competition in New York is fierce. Among the city's 9 million residents, young Vietnamese living here are gradually exploring unique and creative paths to shift the perspective amid the national fronts on Vietnamese food. For Vietnamese people in New York, changing this perception helps Vietnam make its mark on the global culinary map, and it also affirms the value and beauty of Vietnamese culture and people. They are the special ambassadors of Vietnamese cuisine. This is an image of New York diners immersed in the unique flavor of bún đậu mắm tôm, a dish with a distinct taste of Vietnam. The restaurant named Mắm was opened by Nhung and Gerald Cross, the Lower East Side of New York City. It was ranked 26th among the city's best restaurants by the New York Times.
When I first opened the restaurant, I only thought about serving Vietnamese people. Typically, we'd have about 80% Vietnamese customers and 20% Westerners. But after being featured in the New York Times, Western diners now make up half of our guests.
Embracing a Vietnamese street food aesthetic, Mắm stands out amid the modern hustle of New York and continues to draw locals in for an authentic experience.
From the Zoy, the chak lom, the đậu hũ, we make it all. You know, we go above and beyond to make the tofu, bring cốm tươi from Hanoi, right? To bring the mắm tôm from Thanh Hoa, to represent bún đậu in its highest level.
Shrimp paste is a condiment even some Vietnamese struggle with. However, it has now become a craze in New York, one of the world's most demanding culinary markets. These prove the captivating allure of Vietnamese food. Although to reach this point, Vietnamese cuisine in New York has undergone over 60 years of evolution.
The earliest instance that I saw recorded of Vietnamese restaurants here in New York City dates back to 1961, and that was when Craig Claiborne, the very esteemed restaurant reviewer for the New York Times, wrote a review about a Vietnam restaurant. Some of the dishes that he described in his review seemed very familiar. You know, there were spring rolls and run-of-the-mill, like it wasn't really stand out. In the 70s and like 80s, you had a lot of Vietnamese Chinese immigrants who opened a lot of Vietnamese restaurants in New York City. And I think maybe sometimes maybe non-Vietnamese people don't quite realize that they do sort of have like an undertone or influence of a lot of Chinese cooking techniques in them.
My name is Matt Lecac. I am the head chef. I feel Vietnamese food in New York is a little lacking considering what a global culinary center this is. Vietnamese restaurants don't even use the right herbs. They don't offer like a few dozen other dishes that eat good ingredients and pay for it at that price point.
Fueled by his love for Vietnamese cuisine and his mission to bring it closer to New York diners, Matt Lecac has explored innovative, modern approaches that cater to American palates, all while preserving the soul of Vietnamese food. This is a Vietnamevent food tasting event by Americans.
When I was growing up, my parents were constantly cooking, and I took it for granted. I never realized how amazing the food memories that my parents. So the next course is for very adventurous eaters. Inside this is a fertilized duck egg. Living with an amazing mom that cooks amazing food, you just assume that all the food out there tastes the way it is. But that was a tragic, I guess, awakening call for me. And I didn't really have any interest of making Vietnamese food until I moved away from home. Was doing science at Columbia. I actually have a doctorate in biochemistry. But during this whole program, you know, I would call my mom every other week and get a new recipe. A recipe that I grew up with, eating, but I never knew how to make it. I would have to experiment with the recipes, and I would throw dinner parties all the time. Those dinners gained traction. Juan, the owner of Anh Choy, came to one of the dinner parties and offered me to train as a chef here, and now I became the head chef.
2009, Anh Choy opened in the Lower East Side. Inspiration was street food dining, straight from the alleyways of Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. 7 years later, we're a downtown neighborhood fixture.
When Anh Choy opened, they really kind of made, it was cool, a restaurant can be more than just the food, it's the whole experience of it, right? The design, the look, the decor, the vibe, putting that all together. And I think Anh Choy was sort of one of the first vision of what a Vietnamese restaurant could be.
Anh Choy helped New Yorkers access Vietnamese food more easily, no longer just places to pop in and out. These restaurants now allow diners to deeply experience the taste and the culture of Vietnam. This has drawn significant attention from American media.
I have lived in New York for 12 years, and this city has given me so much. And to be in a position where I can affect something in New York is incredible for me. But I can slowly see, we start using.
The success of Anh Choy also inspired many other Vietnamese chefs to seek opportunities in this glamorous city. A wave of modern Vietnamese restaurants like Đi Ăn Đi, Hanoi Social, as New York's dining scene, making Vietnamese dishes more accessible than ever. One especially notable restaurant is Madame Vo.
Madame Vo. So Madame Vo was one of the first Vietnamese restaurants in New York to really elevate the cuisine and give it kind of a global platform. They're using quality ingredients, elevated service, and since it opened in 2017, it's actually become a favorite of both New Yorkers and celebrities and people visiting from Vietnam as well.
Roasting onions, ginger, garlic, building the signature flavor of a bowl of Vietnamese pho with a giant beef rib. This may not be the familiar version of pho for many Vietnamese back home, but it's this unique twist that has made Madame Vo stand out in East Village, New York City.
Our pho is simmered for 24 hours, and then we top it with a giant short rib. All the recipes came from my mother and his mother because we wanted to share the Southern Vietnamese food that we grew up eating.
Thanks to its unique flavors, Madame Vo has attracted food critics and even Hollywood stars. According to the New York Times, the broth at Madame Vo is rich, clear, and flavorful, all made naturally from bone marrow. Its also subtle sweetness is from the rock sugar and aromatics added during prep. The side dish includes a platter full of basil, lime, jalapeno, and bean sprouts, plus bottles of sriracha and hoisin. They all combine, making a deeply enticing, complete experience. Besides Madame Vo, New Yorkers can also enjoy everyday favorites from Hai Luo, Lek Pho Quán, and Bánh Mì.
The reason I opened this because when I came to New York, and I could really find any restaurant back then, like cooking like my mom. I had to look for the Vietnamese products. So that's why I said, oh, well, we don't have like a Vietnamese town here in New York.
The Vietnamese community has really expressed itself in New York is through the culinary avenue. From just a handful of notable spots back in the New Yorkers can try Vietnamese food of all different types and regions now in the city like never before.
From being relatively unknown to now experiencing a boom, Vietnamese food has carved out a place in this highly competitive city. Yet the journey doesn't stop at authenticity or hunger. It continues with elevation. That's the path Michelin-starred chef Matt Le Hac has chosen with his own restaurant, Bolero.
Light and fluffy with like a thin crust but still crusty and crispy is an example of Vietnamese ingenuity. Or like when the Chinese came, colonizers for 1,000 years, felt like they wanted to learn Bolero and make it their own. I felt like that represents Vietnamese creativity and the movement forward that's represented in Bolero. I felt like that's a great name for what we're doing here at this restaurant.
Bolero is where Matt and his team serve about 30 Vietnamese dishes like phở bò Saigon, vegetarian bún bò Huế, chả cá lá vọng, fried crab spring rolls, bánh xèo, crispy sticky rice, and bánh nậm. After 5 years at An Choi and mastering modern culinary techniques, Bolero has become a must-visit. That's why TripAdvisor named Bolero the best restaurant chosen by tourists in 2022. According to the Tano Food Group and the SIAL America, the U.S. has become a hotspot for Vietnamese cuisine with nearly 8,000 restaurants nationwide, over 100 of which are in New York. The rise of Vietnamese restaurants here reflects the desire of the people to reconnect with traditional roots.
Vietnamese products. So that's why I said, oh, well, we don't have like a Vietnamese town here in New York.
Instead of using wheat, we use rice and tapioca. So there's a lot of examples of Vietnamese creativity and the movement forward that's represented in the name Bolero. I felt like that's a great name for what we're doing here at this restaurant.
The early successes include establishing the Vietnamese culinary brand in New York reflect the tone, creativity, and resilience of Vietnamese people, those born both in Vietnam and abroad. In the City of Dreams, they have found strength in their roots and embraced the mission of bringing Vietnamese cuisine to the world.
Lê Châu is a mountainous province in the northwest of Vietnam, providing some of the most spectacular sceneries to be found in the country. The mysterious feel of this mountainous area attracts the curiosity of both domestic and international adventurers. The striking scenery and the many areas for hiking and trekking are waiting to be explored.
Hi everyone, welcome to my adventure in the cloudy and foggy mountains of Lê Châu province.
Located in the high mountains, Ta Leng looks like a fairy village, being home to almost exclusively people from the Hmong ethnic tribe. We arrive at Ta Leng village in what the Vietnamese call the season of pouring water. At this time, the scenery is particularly impressive, with huge rice terrace fields reflecting passing clouds. Water pours down the seemingly infinite layers of the rice terraces, creating this unique, breathtaking scenery.
Mắt ơi! Mắt ơi! Vào đây thay đồ xong là đi làm đi. Vâng. Cái này là cái bộ quần áo dân tộc truyền thống của bọn mình. Mặc vào để đi làm. Ui nhiều quá. Đấy. Ok rồi.
Vâng, cảm ơn anh, cảm ơn. Ok, làm đi. Xin cảm ơn.
The Hmong ethnic people are used to live in the high mountains. They make a living by doing agriculture in their very unique way. They still use manual plowing because in such high and dangerous terrain, there's no option for modern machines to access.
So I'm now in the mountains of Lê Châu with Anh Bao. Anh Bao is a farmer here, and he's finally now getting me ready to actually do some work on the rice field. So we're now in a beautiful valley in Lê Châu province with lots of rice fields that are full of water. This kind of creates a mirror effect when walking through it. These rice fields are very tranquil, and there's clouds drifting over the rice fields slowly, and we're gonna do some traditional Hmong rice farming in these rice fields. Anh Bao just gave me some traditional Hmong pants with nice rice farming boots, and I'm very excited to do my first rice farming here. Yeah, let's get right to it. Anh Bao ơi, cho em với. Ơi bắt đầu vào đây làm ruộng nhá. Đúng rồi. Đâu ạ? Anh Bao ơi, làm thế nào ạ? Đây giờ mở cái này ra. Nghĩa là đi. Suy. Cây nó nghiêng này. Vâng. Nghiêng này, đất nó mới lật. Đấy. Nghiêng. Ôi anh Bảo ơi. Con trâu tên là gì ạ?
Con trâu á?
Vâng.
Mình không đặt tên cho nó.
Không đặt tên à?
Đúng rồi.
Và con trâu có hiểu suy. Đây là đi.
Vâng.
Và hoa là rừng, phải không?
Nó hiểu.
Ôi giời ơi.
Còn cái cây này
trâu thông minh quá. Siêu.
Đây bây giờ phải ở này. Đấy.
Magic. Cái nào sẽ phải á?
Đấy.
Rồi. Khóa. Suy.
Đấy.
Wow.
Đấy. Ấn xuống.
Wow.
Ấn xuống.
Đúng rồi. Wow. Ok.
Cái này là mệt đấy. Wow. Bây giờ hết sử dụng rồi đấy, để mình quay sâu cho. Cầm tay vào đây.
Vâng. Anh Bao has taught me how to actually command the buffalo with the ethnic Hmong language, which was an incredible challenge, but also so much fun. It's so interesting to learn that they have actually very precise commands to tell the buffalo where to go, and I admire the people doing this. I mean, the rice terrace fields here are so large, and they go through all of them every day, which is incredible. I'm very grateful for this experience, and I'm getting ready to do some more plowing. All right, let's get it on. Ôi giời ơi, to quá. Wow. All right, that works. All right, guys. Wow, I never thought I would go with a buffalo plowing through terrace rice fields in Vietnam. This has been an amazing experience, and it's been exhausting, but so much fun. Anh mát không? Không mát, mà anh làm tốt quá. Ôi giời ơi. Làm mà... Mệt quá. Vâng, được rồi. Ôi giời ơi.
Làm một vòng nữa.
Hẹn gặp lại. Tạm biệt anh. Rất biết gặp anh.
Ôi, anh cần vui quá.
The Hmong people are basically one of the ethnic tribes that live in the high mountains. Their lifestyle really has just beauty to it. Like they live in houses surrounded, by fog, and they live in the clouds, And when they wake up to this amazing view of mountain ranges. And living in the city, I'm kind of jealous of that sometimes. Ôi anh Báo và anh Sứa ơi, chúng ta đi leo núi ngày mai phải không?
Đúng rồi.
Thế là khó không?
Cũng hơi khó đấy. Cái đỉnh núi này gọi là đỉnh núi Putaland. Nếu mà dịch ra tiếng Mông thì sẽ gọi là đỉnh núi Tà Làng. Cái đỉnh này nó cũng hơi dài cho nên là chắc là phải đi tầm khoảng 3 ngày 2 đêm.
Vâng, 3 ngày. 3 ngày lâu mà.
Đi thì cảnh quan thiên nhiên nó cũng phong phú lắm, đẹp. Còn hoang sơ lắm.
Ok, hiểu rồi. Và leo núi Putaland bao nhiêu lần rồi à?
Cũng nhiều rồi đấy, nhưng mà người Hà Lan như bạn ấy thì chỉ có duy nhất một mình bạn thôi.
Vâng. Em rất hạnh phúc.
Tuyệt vời.
Vâng, em cảm ơn anh.
Mai sẽ cố gắng thế nào để cho lên tới đỉnh để cho Marcus thấy là nó đẹp thế nào.
Vâng, rất vui. So, I met Anh Bao and Anh Su, and they're porters, that's what it's called, which is something really rare. They actually show people outside of their culture how they live, and they take people into the mountains and show them the ways they walk daily, which is really cool to be part of. They actually showed me so many parts of their culture which you just cannot find out by just, you know, walking past their culture or walking past their houses, you know.
Among the 10 highest peaks of Southeast Asia, Lechou has 6, including Putaling Peak. Putaling Mountain is located northwest of Mount Fansipan, with a height of 3,049 meters. If Fansipan is known as the roof of Indochina, Putaling is definitely the more unexplored second roof that all hikers up for a challenge should try to conquer at least once in their life.
Wow, I'm here in Patalang Forest with Eng Bao and Eng Su, and they are traditional Hmong people and they know this forest exactly. Without them, I'd be lost in this forest. There's lots of fog and it's truly like a fairy tale, but that's also what makes it dangerous. All right, chúc đi à?
Đi tiếp thôi. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Hey. Ôi trời ơi. All right. Anh Bao ơi, đi. Đẹp lắm.
Chúng ta nghỉ tí nhá.
Vâng.
Nghỉ tí đã.
So we've just arrived at a stream and we can't cross it because there's too much water flowing through and there's not really a bridge or anything. So Eng Bao and Eng Su are going to help me build a bridge from root to cross the stream. Let's get right to it. I'm going to help them out. See how it goes.
Nhiều quay lắm. Cầm đây kéo. Ô.
Được rồi.
Cái này là quả ăn được. Ăn được.
Ăn được hả?
Ăn thử đi. Ngon lắm ấy.
Đúng rồi. Ngon lắm.
Ngon lắm. Ăn quả mâm xôi.
Đúng rồi. Look at this, guys.
Nào, bây giờ
A very fresh strawberry from the forest of Lechou. Delicious. Đúng.
Mấy cậu à?
Vâng.
Kéo đi. Marcus.
Đúng rồi.
Một tí, anh bỏ nén là phải nén nhá. Bỏ vào lên trước.
Đúng rồi, đúng rồi. Ôi ơi ơi. Okay guys, I guess we lost the log. We got the log, now we gotta go all the way back, get a new one, and put a new log there. That's the only thing we can do. But wait, they still might be able to get that log back, but I think the chances are very small. Ôi anh Bảo ơi, làm gì bây giờ? Lấy cây này hả? Lấy cây mới? Lấy cây mới hả? Ôi trời ơi!
suối mà khả năng là sẽ có cá để bắt.
À, bắt cá à?
Mình sẽ đắp để bắt cá để ăn.
Bắt cá tây à?
Đúng rồi. Này đặt. Đây là con nòng nọc này.
À, ôi trời ơi.
Bắt cá suối.
Đúng rồi.
Đây là một con nòng nọc này.
Có cá đây.
Đây là một con cá này.
Con egg á?
Con nòng nọc.
Con nòng nọc à? Cái này cá gì à?
Cá suối.
Cá suối à?
Cái này là nấu canh, nướng ăn cũng ngon.
Nấu canh à? Okay. Wow guys, got my first fish in a Lake Chou River. I'm very happy with the result. Đây là cái gì? Tiếng Mông à?
Tiếng Mông cái này cái gì hả?
Vâng.
Câu.
Và tiếng Việt là gì?
Tiếng Việt là sùng sún.
Sùng sún?
Yeah.
Ok. Và đây là ngọt không?
Nó chua lắm.
Vâng. Chua lắm à?
Yeah.
Ôi giời ơi. Em không thích ăn chua.
Người Mông đi rừng á.
Vâng ạ.
Khát nước là ăn cái này. Được rồi, ăn à. Chua lắm.
Chua lắm, đúng rồi. Ôi giời ơi.
At the height of 700 to 1,000 meters, the way up doesn't pose too many obstacles in the form of slopes and slippery terrain. However, the lush forest with its many trees can still prove a challenge to get through. The forest is covered with fog, creating this fairy tale-like scenery.
So tonight we'll sleep in this tent over here, which is pretty remote, and we don't really have enough food tonight. So I'm not sure what we're going to eat tonight. I'll ask them what that is. Anh Bao ơi, chúng đi ăn gì tối nay à?
Tối nay chắc là thức ăn không đủ nên mình sẽ đi tu. Còn mình ăn nòng nọc.
Ăn nòng nọc à?
Ôi lửa cháy rồi, đi đây. Mình đi bắt ếch đi. Đi nòng nọc này.
Bắt ếch hả? Bắt ếch bè. Hiểu rồi. Và đi suối rất lạnh không?
Suối lạnh đáng mới vãi.
Ôi giời ơi. Ok. Vâng ạ.
Làm cái cần câu.
Vâng. Ok. Đi hả?
Đi chặt tre thôi.
Vâng ạ.
Và phải đi đào run nữa.
Vâng. Đi hả?
Ừ.
Đi xuống hả?
Đào run.
Vâng.
Đào run. Đây này, con này này. Đấy con này.
Con này để làm nòng nọc à?
Nhưng mà lấy con to hơn.
Đúng rồi.
Ok.
Bắt đi hả?
Được chưa? Được sẽ đi câu thôi.
Ok, đi. Yes. Alrighty. Anh Bao ơi, đây.
Bác ơi.
Vâng. Còn nhiều ếch đây à?
Bác ơi, xuống đây câu đi. Mình phải ra xử lý bắt ếch.
Vâng ạ. Ok. Còn vấn đề.
Nhưng mà phải nhớ câu được nhá.
Vâng.
Ngồi bên này.
Em bật ếch đây.
Ngồi.
All right, this is working. This is working. We're getting one, aren't we? Đúng rồi. Ôi giời ơi. Look at that. Bam. Second baby frog. Catched it. Look at this. Right in the straw hat. It's gonna be dinner for tonight, guys. There we go. I'm quite satisfied with what we caught. Still gotta catch some more though, because this is not enough for a proper dinner, is it?
Marker.
Vâng.
Được ếch đây rồi.
Ôi giời ơi. To quá đây.
Nhìn đây này.
Ôi giời ơi. Ôi, cái này to quá.
Chúng ta có bữa rồi.
Ôi giời ơi. Cái này ngon không?
Đấy, ngon.
Ngon hả?
Mất được 2 con hả?
2 con. Wow. Amazing. Vâng. Có đây hả? Cái này. Đúng rồi. Cheers. You got it. Alrighty, man. Look at that.
Hai tay, bắt cả hai tay.
Bắt cả hai tay, đúng rồi. Hey, look at that. We caught a baby frog with just our hands. Don't want to let it slip. All right, so I was afraid that tonight we wouldn't have enough food, but as far as we are now, we've got 3 adult frogs and 5 baby frogs that we just caught in this little river here. I guess we're gonna go up now and cook them. Bao lâu con nuống con ếch? Chín hả? Vâng, bao lâu?
10 phút thôi.
10 phút thôi à? Alright.
Ôi chịu khó đi, ngồi đi.
Ôi giời ơi.
Nướng cẩn thận nó cháy á.
Nó nhúc quá anh, ôi giời ơi. Yeah, the smoke is truly unbearable.
Put it low is.
Yeah, đúng rồi.
Ôi, đứt rồi.
Vâng.
Okay, so great.
Vâng. Ăn được rồi hả?
Ăn được rồi. Này, ăn
khỏe quá.
Ăn thừa.
Ăn hả? Cảm ơn anh. Alright, let's try our first baby frog, huh? What a lot of smoke, but let's try it. That's actually really tasty. Very proper.
Ngon lắm.
Ngon lắm. Ôi trời ơi.
Giống mình nhé.
Ôi trời ơi, ngon lắm.
Ngon lắm.
Rất ngon. Nhưng mà ăn ếch ở Hà Nội rồi, nhưng mà cái này ngon hơn.
Đương nhiên là ếch Hà Nội làm gì mà ngon bằng ếch Puttalen được.
Đúng rồi, ếch Puttalen ngon nhất.
Ăn nữa đi, ăn đi.
Vâng ạ. Cảm ơn.
Ăn để lấy sức ngày mai lên đỉnh.
Đúng rồi. This frog is actually really good. It somehow just is the freshest you can get, so it just somehow tastes better. Yeah.
Đây này.
Đúng rồi. Vâng.
Ngon đấy.
Vâng.
Ăn đi.
Ôi giời ơi. I've learned so much during the trip from Anh Bao and Anh Su. They're experts in the field of trekking and nature, and I've seen so many kinds of animals. The whole scenery and the whole atmosphere during the trek was just very kind of mysterious but beautiful. During walking through the forest, it was kind of like a fairy tale. There was fog everywhere. We're walking through it and the fog is drifting by slowly. Yeah, it was truly amazing. I really enjoyed it. Nice. All right, let's get down before this thing breaks. Wow. moss, and it's completely hidden from the eye. It's made so that no predator can see that there's a nest. I don't know what kind of bird this is, but it must not be old or young born. It's amazing what this forest has to offer in terms of nature. Right, let's go. Wow, amazing. These are Hoa Do Kien flowers. They're Hoa Do Kien Vang, which means they're the yellow kind of this flower. They grow above 2,900 meters, and we're now at about 3,000 meters on Putalang Mountain. We're about 30 minutes from reaching the summit. That's about 500 meters, what is it? Something like that more. And yeah, I'd say, let's go.
Often acclaimed as the queen of flowers in northwestern forests, the rhododendrons are blossoming on Putalang Mountain at a height of 1,500 meters. Thanks to the unique terrain and climate, creating an ideal environment for the flowers, Putalang has the most beautiful rhododendrons in the northwestern mountain region.
Ôi giời ơi, đây là đinh. Hey, tốt quá. Great, great, tuyệt vời. Cảm ơn anh Bao. Cảm ơn anh Sư. We made it. Ôi giời ơi, leo nhiều quá. Wow, guys, after 2 days of climbing, we finally reached the top of Putalang Mountain, and I'm so freaking excited to finally reach the top. This is amazing, guys. The view is amazing. You can just see a bit of the rest of the top over here, and it's just great. The feeling is exhilarating. Wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You were great. Awesome. Dude boy.
Throughout history, great thinkers and economists have come up with economic formulas and models to help people understand growth of economies. What about Vietnam, a country that emerged from shadows of war and for the past 40 years since Đổi Mới reform has transitioned itself into one of the most dynamic economies in Asia? What is the X factor for the economic development of Vietnam? To help us answer that question, we have in our studio here today Professor Edmund Malesky.
Professor Edmund Malesky is one of the world's leading experts on political economy and development in Southeast Asia. For over 2 decades, his research has shed light on how governance, investment, and business climates evolve in emerging economies. He has led the Provincial Competitiveness Index, PCI, a nationwide survey that has shaped the way provinces improve governance and attract investment. In Vietnam 360, Professor Molesky will explore Vietnam's progress and understand what lies ahead for a country at the heart of global change.
Professor Molesky, thank you for joining us today. So what do you think of my introduction? Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think it was an excellent introduction, and I think you described me really well. But I did want to do one thing, because I don't want to take credit for all of the work I've done in Vietnam. So the Provincial Competitiveness Index, you know, I've been working on that for 25 years now with the Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And some of my friends there, Chan Hu Wing, Do Anh Tuan, and Pham Ngoc Taik, have been really important in developing that index, and they've been great partners. And I also wanted to say that another big project that I work on, which is the PAPI survey of Vietnamese citizens, I've done with UNDP and SOCOTUS for a long time. All of my work in Vietnam has really relied heavily on Vietnamese partners and collaborators.
The theme of our discussion today is the X factor of the economic growth of Vietnam. So in your opinion, what is the X factor?
I mean, I think it's a great question. And, you know, I'm often asked, in Vietnam, you know, is there a model, right? How did they achieve this miracle economic growth? I think, you know, sometimes I like to remind people when I first came to Vietnam, 75% of the population lived under the poverty rate, right? Today, that number is in single digit, that there's some sort of strategy that's been implemented over these past 30 years. There's a pragmatism, an innovation, and a willingness to respond to crises with solutions, and also being ready to move away if they're not working.
Can you walk us through the milestones in the journey of the economic development of Vietnam?
This is the famous Sixth Party Congress in 1986, and this is where Vietnam launched sort of two intertwined and important policies, Đổi mới, which is renovation, and also the sort of the open door policy. 1987 is the first year that foreign direct investment was allowed in Vietnam. But 1986 was when you first saw this movement towards the first steps of a market economy away from central planning. Farmers were allowed, agriculture was liberalized, farmers were allowed to sell rice at market prices. And you saw the first emergence of non-state business sector, so businesses that were not part of state-owned enterprises or cooperatives. Then the big one that I like to point out and highlight a lot is in 2000, the enterprise law, which really changed the role of the private sector in the country. So 2007, Vietnam enters the WTO.
Yes.
We've seen a wave of economic reforms and liberalization since then. And then, of course, this new wave of tremendous economic reforms, political reforms, institutional reforms that are taking place right now in the Vietnamese system that I sometimes joke that I think Vietnam is giving us scholars too much to study all at the same time. It's a target-rich environment with all of the different reforms that are going on.
And linking it to the current context, we have Resolution 68. Do you think it's a continuation of all of the reforms that happened before?
Yeah, I very much think it's a continuation. So, as I said, the Đổi mới economic reforms, what they really did was move Vietnam away from a central planning system to the beginning of what looks like a market economy. The enterprise law was really important in the sense it was the first sort of effort to sort of legalize the activities of the private sector in Vietnam. So I sometimes tell people and remind people that, you know, early on in Vietnam, there wasn't a word. Right now we say when we're talking to private enterprise, we say Công ty tư nhân, right? And which means private enterprise. But before that, when we talked about that sector, we talked about Công ty ngoài nước, right? Like, yeah, so to describe that, ngoài nhà nước, to describe like enterprises that were outside the state sector. Before the enterprise law, there were 50,000 of those businesses, but we're looking at 1 million today. What the enterprise law really did was it moved from a certification system where you needed permission to start a business to a registration system where if you had a good idea and you weren't in a restricted area, you could go ahead and start the business in that space just by registering it at the Department of Planning and Investment. And it got rid of a whole bunch of administrative procedures that made it difficult to start a business. What Resolution 68 is doing is continuing that.
Right.
Resolution 68 is really important, and so for many years, when you looked at Vietnamese documents, planning documents that were presented at the at the party congresses, you would see that they always said the state is going to be the leading engine of the Vietnamese economy. But in Resolution 68, the big philosophical change is to say the private sector is going to be the driving force in the economy, and it sets out these ambitious goals.
Why is that philosophical change important?
It is the private sector that in most economies is the most dynamic sector, and the sector that is the one that eventually leads to producing the jobs and investment that, that drive the country. Focusing on the private sector rather than the foreign sector actually here the idea is that Vietnam is going to grow businesses of its own. In fact, the Resolution 68 sets out this idea that there will be 20 national champions from Vietnam competing in the global economy. It's very difficult for the government to pick winners and losers in the business environment, to say that this company is going to be successful. And putting a focus on the private sector is allowing to say that this isn't going to be top-down decisions. We're going to let local entrepreneurs and local ideas drive decision-making in Vietnam and create the environment that allows them to prosper.
So we have here in our chart, you can see Vietnam's private enterprise growth targets. In 2024, the number of enterprises are 940,000, and the goal, the 2045 target is 3 million. So what do you think of this goal?
Yeah, so I think this target is actually achievable. And it's achievable because of something that's actually written in Resolution 68. So there are 940,000 formal private companies. That means these are companies that registered at the provincial level, and they have a formal enterprise certificate. There's about 5 million what we call household enterprises. They don't go through the same formal registration. They don't have to follow the same tax or accounting processes. In Resolution 68, one big effort is to encourage those household enterprises to register as formal enterprises. So, and I think when you look at the data, you'll see that a lot of those household enterprises are actually quite big. They have a significant amount of capital, especially in the service sector. Restaurants and coffee shops are often household enterprises. So I think it will be quite easy to move those into the formal private sector. So I think that goal is quite achievable. I also think it's really important to move those informal enterprises into the formal sector. It makes them more visible to government officials, allows for more proper safety, environmental regulations. And I think that's, given where Vietnam's heading in terms of trying to deal with these tremendous issues of environment and urbanization, having those enterprises be more observable is also, I think, a key social good as well. Resolution 68 also lays out a number of administrative goals. They want to ease the business registration process, ease the regulatory process, reduce inspections. They say they're going to cap the number of inspections that businesses face per year. They have transparency goals. They want to increase private sector's access to land, private sector's access to loans. So all of that is going to require more streamlined local government institutions. And then there's going to be real changes needed in mindset here about, from the perspective of banks and the lending procedures, from the perspective of local governments and zoning, about making more of that land access to process that the leaders of Vietnam have considered, right? Because this is taking place alongside major administrative changes in Vietnam, right? Merging provinces, getting rid of a layer of government. And I think that goes along this line of this idea of easing the burdens of the private sector by removing a node of government for which they have to interact.
With the increasing role of the private segment, how can Vietnam ensure equal social distribution, leaving no one behind?
Yeah. Most workers at state-owned enterprises have a pension, social insurance that they can draw upon. Foreign investors in manufacturing, we see social insurance. And social insurance, access to it has grown over time, but it's still pretty low, 22%. And it's in that private sector, and especially that informal sector where workers don't have social insurance. They have no fallback plan, no cushion if something goes wrong.
Right.
A crisis in the economy where they're laid off, they don't have that. Because one concern that a lot of Vietnamese workers have is, I'm paying into this thing and I have no idea how they're making money, whether this money is going to be there when I retire. Economic growth always has consequences. It comes with urbanization, trade-offs with the environment, climate sustainability. There are going to be large populations, like in the Mekong Delta, that because of issues with climate change are going to be moving. Right. And finding a way to cushion that, what we call climate migrants, finding a way to deal with those types of patterns and making sure they can move into new communities, be trained, find new jobs is going to be really important moving forward. That's the bet of Resolution 68, is that we're going to grow our private sector because we recognize that that's where the jobs of the future are going to come from. That's where the dynamism is going to come from. And so they're starting that process now.
Now I want to talk about the collaboration. One example of the collaboration between the state-owned sector and the private segment. As you can see here, there's a very big project, investment project for North-South high-speed railway. What can you say about this project?
So I think that it's a strategy. It's a strategy that makes sense to me. It's a strategy that's been used in Vietnam before. So give me a second, and I'll talk a little bit about what a PPP is, right? So PPP is what we call public-private partnerships, and there's a range of these. Right, so some of it you see in just straight government procurement. We're going to have a contract. We're going to pay the private sector to do this, but the more common type is a type we call BOT, or Build, Operate, Transfer. What they'll do is they'll allow the private company to charge fees for usage of that. So if they build infrastructure, they build roads, you might see a toll road. On the railway, they would be able to charge rails. They operate it for a while until they are able to recuperate their investment plus some profit, and then they transfer that infrastructure or that utility back to the state, which for then it will serve as a public utility. And I think that's going to be the idea with the railway. And already you've seen some big companies express interest in it. It does, to some extent, reduce some of the risks on the part of the state for a large project like this.
But it also requires the private sector to have enough capacity to execute.
So that's a real question, right? And it's a question a lot of people are asking, right? Vingroup has been very successful in real estate. They've obviously started off and also demonstrated success in other areas like automobiles and education, even neural networks. Like, but they haven't built a high-speed rail before, right? And so the question is, are they going to be able to build the expertise and capacity to be able to do this and operate this? THACO has been, it does great. It's been one of Vietnam's largest companies, it exports a lot, but but it's mostly done automobile, right? Construction, exporting. So is it in the position that it can build a high-speed rail? So, and I think, but that's why this is a contracting and a partnership process, right? The Vietnamese government, before they award the contract, are going to be able to look at the track record, at the proposal. They're going to be able to see whether this is going to work or not. And given an investment like this, you think I imagine there's going to be a lot of scrutiny to be able to see that the producer is going to be able to pull this off.
But if they can pull this off, what are the benefits?
For one, it's going to change the life of a lot of Vietnamese who now be able to travel all over the country quickly. For businesses, it's going to be really easy for them to transport goods or buy goods and services. From a cultural and perspective, this is going to connect parts of the country, allow people who normally couldn't afford to travel all the way to different parts of Vietnam to experience the diversity of the country. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes that will result from it.
So let's see how media all over the world talk about this project. Nikkei Asia, Vingroup proposes new unit to build run Vietnam's $61 billion bullet train. And Reuters, Vietnam to consider VinSpeed proposal to build high-speed railway. And then there's an investment alliance, eyes $100 billion North-South high-speed rail project in Vietnam. So what do you think of this interest of media all over the world.
I mean, I do think it's not all countries in the world have high-speed rails, right? So this is a statement for Vietnam about an entry into a level of economic performance that not few countries have achieved. I think they're very interested in this idea of how it's going to be built and the private sector investment. I think the size is attractive. It's an eye-wateringly big number, right? So that, of course, that has got business newspapers interested in this process.
So how exactly do we measure Vietnam's progress? One of the most powerful tools is the Provincial Competitiveness Index. Coming up next, we'll explore how this index has shaped Vietnam's economic growth.
Okay, Eddie, let's talk about PCI. I know that PCI is
my baby.
Your baby.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your baby. On the chart here, we have business thermometer over time. Explain this to me.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite indicators in the PCI. It's not one that we use to make the index, but it's one that we've collected since the beginning of the PCI. You can see they're going back to 2006. And it's a simple question. It basically says to all the businesses, both domestic and foreign, it says, do you plan to expand your business over the next 2 years? Or actually more accurately, what are your plans for your business over the next 2 years? Do you want to expand, stay the same, or close down or make it smaller? And we take the share of businesses that plan to expand their business over the next 2 years and plot it as a measure of business confidence. And the thing that I really enjoy about it is that it's become a leading indicator that you can see. It generally tends to do pretty well at predicting business investment growth, labor growth, and even GDP growth. So you can kind of see on the chart here, like, the business growth when Vietnam was about to enter the WTO in 2007, you can see that tremendous spike in business confidence and willingness to expand in 75%. That continued through that early years of the WTO entry. There's that decline that has to do with Vietnam's hyperinflation crisis, right? And so you see the businesses pull back from their investment during that period. Then they rose again. And then you see that beginning in 2020, that steady decline again because of COVID. I think that one thing that's been underappreciated is how challenging and difficult it was for the Vietnamese private sector during COVID. And so you're only seeing now in 2024 the green shoots of growing out of that COVID slump for the private sector. So I'm pretty excited about that fact that we're seeing that improvement. Now, it's not much higher, than 2012 or 2013, but it does appear to be, a more positive economic growth. Sometimes you have to ask questions in a kind of abstract manner in order to generalize, right? So not every question is like exactly precisely capturing the nuance of the Vietnamese context, right? Sometimes you have to ask sort of larger questions about transparency. But as much as possible, we do try to make it reflect the realities that business actually face in Vietnam, actually asking them about the specific problems they're facing on the specific policy issues and day-to-day activities of the businesses. And so I do think that we tend to capture reality. I'm not a gambler, but if you ask me to gamble and predict the future, I would use this indicator because it both longitudinally, so over time, and spatially, and across business segments, this indicator has been a pretty good predictor of which businesses are going to grow and which ones aren't.
Right. Currently, the private sector businesses in Vietnam are facing trade turbulence and also uncertainties at the global level. So what can you say about the current context and how it would harm the private segment?
I think the turbulence is a good word. It has been extremely turbulent, but regardless what the number is, you're going to see a lot of foreign businesses look to replace their Chinese inputs with Vietnamese inputs as a way of saying this was made in Vietnam. So almost all foreign businesses in Vietnam buy some intermediate goods and services from China. right? Some input, some rubber. It's just the way production chains worked.
Right.
Most of it is not what we call rerouting, just sticking a Made in Vietnam sticker. They buy inputs. But depending on how that's determined, you're going to see them look for certificate of origin, look to buy more products, and there's an opportunity here for Vietnamese private businesses to play that role of filling in to provide those intermediate goods and services that are currently being provided by Chinese companies. This is a chance to really insert themselves into the supply chains in the way that Resolution 68 imagines.
Do you think that kind of approach would help the country in this time of turbulence?
I do think like a pragmatic problem-solving approach, and I think that, watching the Vietnamese leaders over the past year, I think that's what they've demonstrated, is a pragmatic approach responding to these wild uncertainties and trying to deal with them with clear policy solutions. I think that's essentially what they've done. Yeah, and if the word of the day is flexibility, I think they've shown that to some extent.
Since you were mentioning the visions of our top leaders, I want to quote Party General Secretary Tô Lâm and his vision for Vietnam. Economic growth of at least 8%. And I know that the set target for this year is 8.3 to 8.5%. A double-digit growth in the 2026 to 2030 period. Becoming a developing country with upper middle income and modern industry by 2030, with high income by 2045. So what do you think of these goals?
The first thing I'll say is this is really ambitious. Vietnam has not achieved an annual 8% growth in any year of the years that I've been studying Vietnam yet, right? It's had 6% growth, it's had 7% growth. It is quite ambitious. It's not unprecedented in global economic history. We know that it can be done. We know that, that type of economic transition and globalization are possible. So it's not outlandish to lay out a number like that. Ambitious but not outlandish.
Is it necessary for Vietnam to achieve, to avoid the middle income trap?
I don't think you have to grow that fast in such a short amount of period of time to avoid the middle income trap. I think you can steady economic growth over a sustained period of time. If Vietnam maintains 6 or 7% rate, it could avoid the middle income trap. The middle income trap is stagnated growth, where at a certain point, because of some of the structural conditions that happen in a middle economy, prevent it from even achieving those rates. So I don't think it's necessary, but I don't mind setting ambitious targets. We have a saying in the United States: aim for the moon, and if you miss, you land among the stars. Okay. Right? So yeah, I think it's totally fine to set goals as a way of orienting people, as a way of creating focus. I don't think there will be, it's not like Vietnam is going to end up in a morass if it doesn't achieve these goals. But I do think that getting here is going to require, a very different, a set of approaches than Vietnam's done before.
Right. Let's see what our prime minister say. Here he mentioned the goal of achieving GDP growth of 8.3 to 8.5% in 2025 is highly challenging, but not impossible. It must be achieved to create momentum for double-digit growth in the years ahead. Why do you think achieving double-digit growth is so important for Vietnam?
Vietnam very much wants to be a high middle-income country and eventually enter the rich country clubs, right? I think they see the tremendous talent pool that Vietnam has here, and they see that there's an opportunity here. I think the policymakers have also recognized that Vietnam is in the later stages of its demographic bonus, right? Coming out of the war, you had a large population boom. That population entered the workforce. Some demographers called it the golden era. You have to admire that they're being brave, because it will be seen that way. Like Vietnamese citizens, Vietnamese businesses will say, you promised double-digit growth and we didn't get it, right? So in some ways that they're putting themselves out on a limb. I think it's great to put yourself on the path to that type of success. It's them putting out those goals and then trying to put together a comprehensive set of plans. We should reward them for setting themselves on the future path to success. But you do raise this question, as I said, where's this urgency coming from? The urgency is coming from the structural conditions of Vietnam are at the best time to achieve this than they ever will be.
Looking ahead to 2030, what will it take for Vietnam to rise as an economic powerhouse? Up next, Professor Mielewski shares his vision for the future and his candid take on the role of Vietnam's leaders in steering that journey.
So Eddie, what does success look like in 2030?
I learned a new Vietnamese word recently. Yeah, it's ngo, means cool. No. Yeah. Yes. And I think that if success for me in Vietnam is Vietnam to have a cool economy. That is an innovative economy, right? That is producing cool products.
Like what?
Yeah, I think technologically sophisticated products, high fashion that the world wants to buy. Cool also in terms of green investments, right? That are like cool in both meanings of the word, right? That are so clean energy investments, green operations. I think that's the place. If Vietnam moved into a cool economy, I would be very happy. And I think that's something that's very achievable.
Right. Cool but not cold.
Cool but not cold. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what recommendations would you have for the implementation of Resolution 68 and other resolutions?
For public sector actors to be able to create policy. So the first thing is there's going to need to be a comprehensive effort to go through some of these laws and regulations, sort them out, and come up with a streamlined legal framework for business operation.
If Vietnam were a company, what sector would be its strongest brand?
Right now, the strength of Vietnam is in the service sector, right? In terms of the domestic private sector. In terms of the foreign sector, it's light electronics and computers, right? In terms of the domestic sector, right now, it's the domestic phasing private sector, which is highly innovative, right? You see cute restaurants and coffee shops and all sorts of cool local services. That's what it is right now. As I said, I would like it to see some of that innovation of an idea come into the Vietnamese product market.
Eddie, do you have any wish for our program, Vietnam 360?
Yeah, so I know that Vietnam 360 is not just hoping to reach a Vietnamese audience, but hoping to reach a global audience with its production. So I wish you the best of luck in conquering the world with your innovative programming and the passion, and I hope you teach the world more about Vietnam.
Well, thank you so much. And that's it for this episode of Vietnam 360 with Professor Edmund Mielewski. We hope that you had a good time and enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.
Stay informed, stay connected.
This is Inside Asia, your weekly passport to the pulse of Asia. I'm Thao Chang.
And I'm Hoàng Anh, coming to you from Hanoi, Vietnam.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit China later